And then I need to click this, and then I need to click this. This. Okay, yeah. I think I'm fucking ready. Let's go. Let's start with how's it called? Eden Prime.
Blue Mage. Eden Prime.
Oh, you want to do them
E1.
in? I wanted to do like Savage, like in Savage order, but we can.
No, we can do Eden Prime. Okay, Eden Prime.
Okay. I think this is like one of the best fights in this expansion, except for the fucking cutscene. Also, before we start, actually, do we want to like set some criteria, like based on which we will be rating the fight, or just like we?
Well, it's got to be sort of like looking at it from different avenues, right? So I've for most of these fights. So for Eden's Gate, for instance, I did it in World Prog.
Mm-hmm.
I also progged it in my static, and I also did it in PF. Right, so I have like, three different avenues at looking at fights. For each week, especially for Eden's Gate. For Eden's Verse, I did it in PF and I did it in my static, and I didn't do hardcore rating for that. And for Eden's Promise, I only did it. I did a little bit in PF, not the entire. I didn't do the final fight in PF. But I also did it in my static. But I also switched jobs. So Eden's Gate, for instance, I did completely as a tank. So Eden Prime, where would I put that? I think it was an okay fight. It was good. Like the blind prog aspect of it was very fun. The cutscene though can suck a big dick. It really sucks, and it made clearing it each week very frustrating, and it meant any wipes in the final phase, especially in PF, were very, very annoying. And wipes in the final phase were kind of common, especially with the rotating lasers.
Mm-hmm.
It was very common for somebody to bait that the wrong way, and it would just kill everybody.
Okay. So for me, I cleared all Savage with like a very casual group of friends, and I PF some of the fights on like different roles, like afterwards to get some gear. We did around like 70% of the fights blind. We did like the last fights we didn't do blinds, but like the first 3 we did blind-ish, like where we maybe looked up some stuff. The way I would rate the fights, like basically based on 3 criteria, like how fun it is to prog, how fun it is to farm, and how like creative the fight itself, like how cool and unique the mechanics are, and like how many different ways you come up with solving them. So like based on those criteria, I think 1 is like really fucking fun to prog, and the mechanics are really good. Like it's one of the most creative fights in the Savage tier, I think, because like there is that part with white orbs, right, where you can like make the tank invuln them. You can all like bait them outwards. You can do like some cheeky uptime strats. There were like a billion fucking different strategies, right? And for the phase 2, the part with the orbs, like figuring that stuff out was cool. The reverse delta attack was also cool. Like I think it's really fucking good, but on farm it fucking sucks because of the cutscene, and like in prog it sucks because of the cutscene. Sure, yeah. So like it's either A or B for me because of that. Without
for
the
me,
cutscene,
I can't put it above B because of the pacing issues due to the cutscene and the ad phase. Like the ad phase, it wasn't that hard. It was kind of boring. It was basically heal the tanks and DPS the bosses. That's not exactly very mechanically intensive. For me, it goes into cutscene tier, which is C. C is cutscene tier. I think cutscenes in fights some are it's okay, but for a fight like this, it's just incredibly frustrating.
Like in
progging, the last phase was slow because of the cutscene.
Yeah, Yukop and Tia don't mind cutscenes. Yukop and Tia, and Uvo, I don't know. I put it in B for now, but like maybe I'll adjust it later. Like if I'll see that it's like better than a billion other fights that I think are worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Voidwalker.
Okay, B, we actually didn't disagree too much on this one. I expected us to disagree more. Okay, Voidwalker, It was really cool to prog. I really like the delayed cast mechanics, but after also the DPS check was kind of tight. And like I really like that they started using the damage downs instead of the Vulnums in that fight.
Yes.
Which like actually makes you play the game. But on farm it was kind of easy. And it's not very creative. The second delayed cast thingy, you can do like a flare on the group and just mitigate the heal through, but there is like not much stuff to optimize and like do creatively. So it's like, I don't know, B or C for me. I think B for now.
I think for me, I thought the fight was very fun. Like, just going through the fight, you're always doing something in the fight. Everybody is always doing something, which is very important, because there's a lot of fights where it's, oh, now it's this person's job to do something, like, and I think like everybody is always doing something. Everyone's bearing in mind the time delay mechanic. The mechanical combinations are definitely what make it very interesting, as well as the shadow phases with the hand and all that.
Oh, I hated that part because like you would either get uptime or you would get cucked for just no fucking reason. But yeah, sure, whatever. Maybe in the long run.
To me, it didn't really matter. Like getting uptime or not, it didn't really matter. And plus, most of them, it was only RNG near the end of the fight, if I remember correctly. Whether or not you get the knockback or you get the runaway.
It's like 2/3 into the fight, yeah, somewhere there. Yes.
Yeah. The first one's always get away and then knockback.
Yeah.
So.
The thing that I didn't like about the fight is the things such as spawns, like the warps or the balls or whatever you call them, because like this game and the fucking snapshotting, like the hitbox of those things is like ahead of them, a whole fucking body, and you have to be like mindful of that.
Yeah, but I didn't find that too bad. It's mostly just a problem on the final cycles. I'm just gonna state this: in PF, the final cycles were a fucking mess. Like people just couldn't do the final cycle. People would try to keep uptime, right? Which is very Papega to do if you don't know how to dodge it properly. You can keep uptime during that part.
Yes,
but you have to be to be very, very good and know what you're. And everybody needs, everybody needs to place their mobs perfectly, and you need to be very quick and very tight to keep uptime. People in PF can't do that. They would eat damage downs. They would make the healers have to heal their dumbass, and then they would die, and you would wipe to the inner rage. That was very frustrating. But it was mostly a problem week one and week two. It got easier. Like with gear, as gear got better, it was a fight that became. It went from kind of annoying at times in some PF groups to very, very manageable and fun. Especially when near the end of the tier, people were skipping the cycles completely. I loved doing the cycles, but it was very annoying to do it in PF. I think I would rate it an A tier because I think progging it was fun, farming it was fun. It's just the DPS check and PF being kind of annoying at times, which kind of puts it down a little bit for me.
It's B for me for now, because on farm it's kinda... There is not that many like mental checks you have to do. Like sure, you have to do every now and then you have a mechanic, but they're really, really straightforward. Like you always go to a certain spot as a certain role.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with that. I thought it was fun to farm though.
Okay. Should we move
That's
on?
just one thing. Huh?
Should we move on? Because I feel we either gonna be like in a complete agreement here or a complete disagreement. Leviathan is a fight. Leviathan is D for me. It's a dog shit fight. I fucking hate it. It's stupid, it's boring. It's not creative at all except for Tsunami 2, but it's like not very hard to do, and it's like just basically striking dummy for 10 minutes.
Okay, so when I did it, we didn't know any of the mechanics, right? So we had to... So when we were blind progging, we had to work out the tsunamis and black smokers and all of those sort of mechanics blind.
We did Tsunami up to Tsunami 2 blind. Black Smokers we looked up, unfortunately. But Tsunami 2 we solved ourselves. Which it's... Tsunami 2 is a cool mechanic. Okay, sorry, go on.
I don't think it's an amazing fight. It's... Okay, let's start with the DPS check. The DPS check wasn't too bad. It was bad for PF, week 1. But like every fight is bad for PF week 1. Most people got stonewalled by E2. And so very few people got to E3. So actually, I think ironically E3 was a little bit better.
Leviathan is also terrible on 60-second.
I think I would personally, I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think.
Whoa,
I don't think. It wasn't the worst experience. Like the first half of the fight before he, basically before Tsunami won, it's kind of teaching you the fight, but it's like why? Why is the ant savage? Can it just start, glowy and sort of go from there and have
it needs
bit
to
more
be like
interesting part to it?
Like
to me, it's a third fight. It's a third fight. It's meant to not be.
I think it's third fight. It should be more challenging, but it was like peace until Tsunami 2.
Yeah.
And like Tsunami 1 teaches you all the debuffs that you need to know, and then you can solve Tsunami. Like Tsunami 2 is a good mechanic, and that's all. Also, another thing that I really fucking hated about the fight is Maelstrom. Please don't put mechanics like Maelstrom in fights like ever. It's
You mean like where the boss jumps away and you have to dodge?
Yeah, like
Uwu
mechanics are fine because they're actually difficult, and like Maelstrom is like dungeon boss levels of difficulty, and it doesn't work for 60-second jobs, and it doesn't work for 90-second jobs. It's so fucking awkward.
I didn't find it too bad. So I mean, I did it as Dark Knight and Paladin.
Oh well, I mean, you have no burst, or at least as a Dark Knight, your burst is flexible. You can dump your thingy.
Yeah, but as Paladin, there was a lot of optimization to do as Paladin with
I imagine
when to do 60 seconds rotation, when to do the 63 seconds, all of that sort of thing. When to start with Requiescat, when to start with Fight or Flight. So I'd say it was okay. It was okay.
I really hate
I forgot. As a tank, the uptime you can get if you get the flare, super fun. So I approved of that. I gotta say, one thing that I do knock it down though for this fight, especially, is it's got backwards difficulty curve. So I prefer fights where the hardest mechanics are at the beginning.
Yes, because
then it gets easier.
Yeah, because it's not a pain in the ass to prog. I think T difficulty curve is like pretty good, except maybe Wormhole like before Inception would be better. I don't know, but T got it very right.
If it has the opposite curve where the hardest mechanics are at the end,
it's just a pain in the ass.
It sort of makes it so the fight has to be easier as a result. I don't mind that can work. There are fights where that does work. For instance, E2 it works, right? Because it's more hype when the hardest mechanics are at the end. Which is definitely a good thing, but it just can't have the entire first half of the fight teaching you. That's the problem. But I don't think it's too bad. It wasn't the worst offender for that. It's literally only like the first like two minutes, right, to become a bit of a chore. Afterwards, it's not too bad.
It's I don't know. Absolutely.
I don't care about losing uptime. It doesn't bother me.
It's not about even uptime. Like for me, it's just being a striking dummy. Like you turn off your brain until throughout the whole fight. In Tsunami 2, it's like a simple check if you have a cone or not, and then you do pretty much the same movement. Well, I guess, and the push wave thingy.
I mean, I would argue every fight, once you understand it, you just turn your brain off and do it. But
there is a lot of mechanics that every time you get to them, like you actually have to activate your brain and think like, how do you move? Like, where do you need to go? Like 10 strike or Wormhole? And there is
but I mean, those are ultimates, right? But I mean, like for Savage, you can for most of them. You can
there is examples like that. Savage Titan, for example. Actually, should we actually go on to Titan?
Oh yeah, this is an easy S tier. This was a banger. I thought Titan was awesome.
I don't know where I want to put it yet, because I have really bad memories of the fight, because I was playing the release Shadowbringer Ninja, and like I ran out of all my copium prescription at that point. Ninja was, like,
that's a good point. I forgot. Okay, right. At the beginning of Shadowbringers, the balance was not as good as it is right now, and so for what's it, Ninja, I would say. Okay, so classes that were too weak were like Ninja, Summoner, Astro. What else was a bit too weak? I think that's about it. And then the class which was too strong was like Bard. But no, Dancer was good. It was Bard was too strong, and same with Monk. Yeah, they were both too strong. But Monk was the highest DPSing melee, highest DPS in job in the game, and then it also brought Mantra at 10% as well. So it was just, why not take a monk? There was literally no reason not to.
PFs were banning ninjas from like joining because
and-
it was such a bad job on all accounts.
Yeah, and but Bard was doing a little bit too. It was doing the same DPS as like melees, like Ninja and stuff like that at the time.
Yeah. And like,
so it kind of had a bit too much utility. It was an auto pick.
Speaking of second fight and like the balance, we had like one of the worst comps in the game. We had Dancer, Ninja, Red Mage, which were like the very bottom of the DPS. We had Black Mage, but we were pretty casual, so like not the highest DPS check.
Yeah.
Anyway, for Titan, I will need to think about it. Like, I like that the first phase has like 2 sets of mechanics, and they can be in different order, but I didn't like the mechanic themselves. There is like a lot of hotkey snapshots and positioning, and like sometimes you get clipped by things you're not supposed to get clipped by. Like, you know, when you run out of your yellow marker and you don't take damage, but the thingy explodes and hits someone else. Or like
I know when I always found it like you always take damage, but sometimes you can double stand on a square.
Or like double stand, yeah.
And like you would take damage, but the other person will get hit twice.
Yeah, something like that. And the fall
but that can be that can usually be very easily avoided by not standing on the same square together. But
I mean, so sometimes you have to stack depending on which the platforms are like. It's like you have to wait for them to go off and then launch into your spot. I didn't like the car. Because it also had some wonky snapshot. I don't remember exactly why or like what I hated about it.
A lot of people hated the knockback. A lot of people hated the knockback because the knockback was very inconsistent to be able to prevent. It's one of those things where it's kind of it's not technically forced downtime, but it's basically forced downtime. Sort of scenarios.
And
especially as a tank, because you had to take the charge afterwards, and it was proximity based. So if you couldn't take the charge and do that.
And what else? The thingy where you drop the boulders and you to hide behind them. Dodging 2-1 was like really hard. And even 3-1 you would sometimes get clipped. I don't know. I didn't like that part.
I found I was able to pretty consistently do 2-1, just by watching the enmity list. So. I never found that to be too big of an issue, but it was quite a rare occurrence because in my static, I said always do 3-1 to people.
Yeah, that's what we aim to do, 3-1, but sometimes you can't move the boss or something.
Yeah, just because people couldn't really do the dodge. But then I would myself do the 2-1 dodge, but that's because I was like, I could, you know, I was a bit more used to it and could do it.
I also remember that it was carved first. It would fuck my rotation like immensely. It would like skew all the cooldowns all over the place. So we like hoped for landslide first. I think a lot of people did. Like landslide first worked a lot.
One thing I do want to mention: the only thing that would make me put it down a tier was literally the week 1 prog experience with the instance timer memes, where sometimes you would just have 10 seconds less on the enrage.
Oh yeah,
due to instance timers.
That's weird. I know
it made it unclearable. If you
I know the Ramu has some also timing differences, and I even know why in Ramu, but I don't like those things. Anyway, Titan's second phase, I think second phase is actually pretty cool with the markers and the platforms. And there is it's like really fun to figure out and prog. There is not a whole lot of ways of solving them, but there is like some leeway. I kinda don't like that sometimes it feels like that sometimes you should be able to save around, but there is just nothing you can do if someone fucks up, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a problem with the mechanic. I think it's just you have to be very. Everyone needs to be on the same page with where they're going.
Yeah.
You have a lot of time to react, but if you jump down, that's it. Like if you jump down with blue and you're supposed to stay up.
Yep. And the third phase. It's easier than the second phase. Well, I like the rotating mechanic thingy where you have like people on outside with rotating it and inside with rotating it. That part was cool. There is a lot of just AoE damage, like mitigation check.
Mitigation and healing check, very tough.
Yeah,
in that phase.
The mechanic that I like the most in that fight, I think, is the left-right fist and the expanding AoE from like a random spot. That one is like you have to think about it every time. It's not the hardest mechanic, but I really enjoyed it. It's like a really cool mechanic.
It was better in the final phase because you're able to position the boss as a tank, and so you could always keep up time. The one earlier in the fight was basically sometimes you could just get fucked. Which on day 1 and week 1 prog would literally be a run. Like if you've got the bad pattern, you might as well just jump because the DPS check was that tight.
Yeah, we got there with like a lot of overgear. We were progging really slow. Like Leviathan took us a long time.
Yeah, we had a 0.1% wipe with 10 seconds less on the enrage.
We had 0.2, 0.1 wipes on Oracle of Darkness. What will we get here?
And then we spent about 6 hours having. I think we only wiped twice, like without to anything other than the enrage in those 6 hours, and we still couldn't beat the DPS check. Yeah, it was the DPS check. I think just literally 0.5% of the boss's health. Just take it off. Just 0.5. That's it. That's just the little bit of leeway you need to not get fucked by mechanics and and your group composition potentially being not as strong as it needed to be.
Anyway, overall, like when I was done with Titan, like I hated the fight. Like I hated the job that I was playing and like wasn't enjoying the fight. But like looking back, I think it's a good fight. I'm gonna give it A. I think phase 1 is kind of wonky with like snapshots and positioning, and the transition also after phase 1 is like way too fucking long. It didn't need to be 55 seconds, so it's like A for me because of that.
I didn't mind it because it was pretty like okay. It wasn't one of those forced downtime cutscenes where it stuns you and bullshit like that, you know. And it wasn't super ridiculously long. At least it didn't feel that way.
It was 55 seconds, I know, because I had to time my hue tone based on fucking nothing. I really like I play Ninja, and on transitions I have to time my hue tone to save a cast. And
unless it stuns you.
Yeah, unless it stuns you, and you have like nothing to go on. But overall, I think it was a decent tier. It's like B average for me, I guess.
I thought it was a good tier. It was a good starting tier to an expansion.
Yeah.
I sort of expect fights to be a bit easier near the beginning of expansion, and then it gets progressively more difficult.
Also, like,
and I thought they perfected it for Titan.
Is very much appreciated.
E2 was maybe a bit too tight.
Thanks, Rush, for the
potentially, and E3 was a bit too easy. But I think Titan was perfect, and same with Eden. What's it called? Eden Prime was also perfect.
Another thing that I feel like not talk enough is just like the general feel and the atmosphere of the fights and like the music and visuals. And I think for the first year they were really good. Like I liked the music and how they look and whatnot. That shit was cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Here's the controversial tier.
Okay.
Right. Okay, let's start with Ramu.
Should you go first because I'll need to think about it.
Okay, I'll go first. Do I give him B tier or A tier? That's the
thing. Holy shit. Okay, you'll have to explain.
Right.
Because it's either C or D for me. It's not going above C.
I think it's an A tier, actually. I think it's an A tier first fight. I thought, okay. One thing I really liked about the fight, to start off with, is just... It's very quick, very active, especially for a first fight of a tier. It was very difficult, actually, for a first fight, and very punishing. But I think the difficulty for a second tier, it was probably about right. And I think... I can't really think of any problematic mechanics. Like, there was sort of the... there was like a bajillion ways in PF that people did the lightning, chain lightning thing, which I thought was perfectly fine. Like people either stood in a circle and passed it to the person on your left, or you had the 2 groups of 3 with the 2 tanks flexing if needed, if anyone fucked it up. There was also strats with 2 groups of 4 with the tanks included. You know, so there was a lot of ways to do the boss. Also the off tank having mechanics throughout. Taking the orbs for the ad as well was good. You also had Fury's 14, where you had to knock over the towers that was knocking over the towers was sometimes a bit inconsistent. But that was mostly a PF. That was mostly a P. Like for me, that was mostly a PF problem with people being, oh, I thought I was in that position, or not looking at which way they needed to actually go. But that's because they were like focused so much on the rotation, and not looking at the actual mechanic, and that's just somebody being an idiot sort of problem. I would have preferred that mechanic if it didn't wipe you instantly. If somebody fucked that up, instead it just fucking killed that person. That would have been fine. Like, you know, it kills that person, you take a bunch of damage, you know, and then that's your punishment. But insta wipe is a little bit too much, if you ask me, especially for first fight.
For the first fight, yeah.
I can't really think of anything else that I really disliked about the fight. I thought it was just a very good first fight overall. Very fun to figure out as well. Lots of uptime as well. Lots of good uptime opportunities as well. Lots of stuff for as a tank to do and as a caster. I thought it was a good fight.
Okay. Wait, I need to find. Okay, here is Ramo.
So why do you think it's a bad fight?
I'm gonna start with C, and where should I start?
Probably start at Fury's 14. That's like the main mechanic.
Fury 14 was fine, actually. Like, I didn't like that sometimes you think you stood correctly, but you just fly through the thing. We also had times where tanks got onto the thing, but it just fucking failed. I didn't really know what happened to them, but we had vibes to that.
Oh, I did. Basically, if you click a GCD when you activate the thing, it doesn't. You don't activate it until your GCD is finished.
Oh,
right, and then they can be too late, right? So it's usually it's a let me get one last GCD issue, you know, which causes that.
Fury 13, like, I didn't mind it too much. I just fucking dropped my uptime for the sake of the group to not change positioning to anyone and like to not risk it, to not make it back to my spear. But that part was fine. What I really didn't like is the orbs that he spawns. Because in PF or like even in static, it's really hard to explain to everyone how you want them to move, to leave the close orbs for the melees and like ranged orb for like ranged players. Because I don't remember the fight too well, but like I would always end up having to disengage and run to fucking Narnia to pick up an orb. Another thing is, I think the buffs or like debuffs lasted way too long, and sometimes you would want to pick up the orb preemptively, but you were already at like 2 or 3 stacks and you didn't want 2 or 3 stacks, so the tank, the off tank could grab the ad, or it like would put you into the overcharge thingy, or like the debuff that you get. The thunderstorm phase, or like how it's called, like the A spam feels like it doesn't belong in final. It's just a lot of random stuff. I know that it targets like one half of the group first and the other half of the group, and like you can work with that, but it feels like a WoW mechanic or like WoW fight than final fight. The thing where he buffs himself, which affects the next mechanic, it's a cool idea, but they didn't do enough with it, and the knockback is awful. The positioning on that is like too fucking tight to be fun. And like generally the mechanics that rely on tight positioning in this game, I think not fun, because like it snapshots things differently, or like some server techniques happen, and it really didn't work well in Ramo. And another thing that I really didn't like is that I feel like they have never considered how it will actually play on actual jobs, because I'm pretty sure they consider the like phase transition timings or like mechanic timing, so like it would work for like 60, 90, whatever second jobs, right? And for 60-second job, the Spear 14, the first one is the second one, were terrible. Like you would, both times it would like fuck up the trick. One time, like you didn't have enough time to do the full trick, and another time it would be like just coming up, so you would be sitting on a cooldown for a long time. And another thing, in the first phase before the first Spear 14, depending on whether he did like a charge up the timing would also differ because it's like an extra stuff he does basically. So sometimes he would have like 10 seconds left to trick, and sometimes it would like be already up, which is like very inconsistent for this game that like is very consistent generally. Like the stuff happens in the same order. So like for those reasons, I really fucking hated it. It feels like a WoW fight, not a final fight. Also, the fucking song or like the theme of the fight fucking sucks, and you can't convince me otherwise. It's so fucking bad.
It's such a good fucking song.
No, it's not.
It is. All right.
Krieg would
Okay,
approve, but
Okay, I got some things about what you said. Okay, so firstly, the inconsistent knockbacks, or like not knowing where to stand. I thought they did a really good job with this because on the arena, there's like these lines going
Yes, and you
vertically through the arena.
yes,
that
you
tell
go by the lines. Yes, you
Yes.
land with them, but still, like it's still too tight.
I didn't find it to be too tight because of those lines. Like I thought those lines were, if you stand on the line, you're safe. If you don't stand on the line, you're probably going to die. And it's really just because those, visual indicator of where you need to be is like right there for you. I thought it was perfectly fine.
I died there so many times being like that sure that I was I stood correctly because I was like, I don't know, half a pixel too far in.
What else was there? Oh, the lightning phase where you basically just need to dodge a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally just dodge. Like you just dodge. I never really had an issue with it.
It's not difficult and it's not fun. It's just annoying, especially for casters, I imagine.
No, I thought no. Randoms could dodge. Like they can dodge markers on the ground. What they can't do is line up the correct side for Furious 14. Or somebody tries to go for positional during the lightning passes and then fucking wipes everyone.
I had the privilege of playing with a group, so like 14 positioning wasn't a big issue for us. And
once everyone knows their positioning, it's fine. But in PF, it usually takes 2 or 3 wipes for somebody to go, "Oh, I'm there." Ah, okay. Yeah, and the same with the lightning, the passing the lightning. That became a bit frustrating because it's always melee, man. It's always melee. They always just go, okay, I'm just going to try and do this quick positional, okay? When they were supposed to pass, and they're either too close to the other group, or they were too far away from their person, and it just wipes you. It just goes down, kills the healer, kills the other caster, goes back, kills the melee, and then goes and kills somebody in the other group, and you're like, yeah, that bit was a bit annoying, but other than that, I thought the fight itself was well done. About cooldowns not lining up, that to me that doesn't personally really issue me too much. The enrage wasn't so tight that the difference
the enrage wasn't tight at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't tight. Like I think I reached enrage a couple times in PF in week 1, but that was just PF
as well. But it's just an annoying thing that like lessens my enjoyment of the fight without adding depth to it. For me, it's like C. I think it's what I like it less than like Void Walker and Eden Prime, but
I thought it did it similar like with the that's just another thing with the when he charges himself and then does the mechanic. It's the same thing as Eden Prime, where it's like. When Eden Prime comes back and he has like the buff, all the mechanics are reversed.
Yeah.
Him, it's the same thing. It's either you don't move afterwards, and you have the donut for the snapshot mechanic. I can't remember what it's called, or it's the you stack it, you wait and then move. It's like Twister.
Yeah, it's a Twister. Yes.
It either turns into a Twister or a don't move. Like a stillness. Style mechanic, which I thought was fine. Like, I thought that's fine.
Weird snapshots on Twisters as well, so that wasn't very fun either. Twisters are fucking terrible in this game. Just please never do them again.
No, I think it's fine. It's basically like, provided there's like a visual indicator, like when the cast finishes, you can move, and I think that's completely fine. And that was pretty consistent.
Well, people still fucking die to it for some reason.
Well, that's because they're not moving.
I did Yukov like 2 weeks ago, and Dean says that Twister hate is an undercooked opinion. I don't know. My hatred for Twister is fully fucking
Twisters in UCOB are a different thing because of sometimes if you're lagging and you're like moving, it can just suddenly go off. But it's not that often. It's usually only if you're lagging like a bitch.
I barely died to twisters throughout UCOB prog, but I still hated them.
These type of twisters I thought were fine. Usually, like
these were better.
In PF, yes. It was the same thing. It was the same thing as like I said, everyone would stack up for the first one, right? Even in PF, people would stack up and then you would move. But there'd always be some guy, like a white mage, usually trying to finish his cast, and then he moves late and dies, and you're like, well, raise him. You know, he's an idiot, whatever. But that's all it typically was. You would see that like every couple of runs, and it would be kind of funny. But you know, you just raise them and just keep going. Yeah, I thought it was a good fight. Okay, second one. Next one. Okay. Let's move on.
Can I go first on this one?
Yeah, you can go first. I have a lot to say about this motherfucker.
I am probably gonna drop them in B. I think it's just a wasted opportunity. You have 2 bosses and you could do so much with it, like so much fun stuff, and they just did fucking nothing with it. Which is like the biggest disappointment of the fight for me. It had potential to be more. First phase with Garuda, it teaches you stuff. It's fine. There was a very oddly specific thing where, like, based on the server tick, sometimes you could make an extra GCD on Ninja and sometimes you couldn't. But that's my log monkey things. I didn't like the orbs, the pushback on the orb and the orbs, like at the end of the phase, because the position is like slightly too tight, and then I do it way too many times to admit that I'm just fucking bad at the game. Ifrit, I really didn't like. I did it in PF a few times, and the fucking tether, holy shit, people just don't understand how tether works. Like, they don't understand that the market person will get the tether, and the Ifrit will dash to the tether person, and the tether person will always like run to fucking Africa. Random people would take the links, and the AOs will be all over the place. Then the tank busters, the boss would spin like a fucking Beyblade, because people just can't face him north for some reason. The football was actually cool. I think football was a pretty cool mechanic. What else? The duo phase where you fight 2 of them, it's like such a fucking waste. You can... The phase is really short, like it's like 30-40 seconds long, and it doesn't feel difficult at all. It's like pretty fucking easy. And there is like very little thinking with like positioning and like how you spread DPS or whatever. And what after? Raktapaxa itself is... the tether is even worse because it spawns clones, and like people still don't understand that it's like the hoodwink from Nidhogg aimed on each player basically. And the tether person would always go like away from the boss, which would move the boss, so that would make the fight less enjoyable. What else? Conflict Strike is dumb. It just cucks tanks and healers for no reason. Like, it's an easy mechanic, just made annoying for no reason. The random jump away before Conflict Strike was also not needed, like, just why? The part at the end where you have like stack markers and Garuda tethers is like, that's where we vibed the most. Like, it took us the longest time to like learn how to position itself to like not kayak the safe spot. But yeah, mechanic whatever. Like, I think it's a fine fight mechanically, but it's just a big, really big waste opportunity, and it's also brought down further by the way people do it. So it's like, overall it's like B for me, I think. Okay.
So what are the good points? Why is it B instead of like D in comparison to Ramu?
I hated the mechanic less. Like, I think mechanically it's fine. There is like less random bullshit. Well, there is a lot of random bullshit, but that's because people are dumb and like drop the clones wherever they want instead of how they should be dropping them. Wait,
but you said you hate... Okay. I won't touch on that. Okay, right. I'm just gonna stick this. Do I stick it in DLC? That's a tough choice right here. It's like, is it in the dumpster or is it in the cutscene tier? I think dumpster. I think it goes in the dumpster. It's completely wasted. Like, because the first, so you have 4 different phases. You have the Garuda phase, the Ifrit phase, the add both of them together phase, and then you have the
Raktapaksha, yes.
Phase, right? The Garuda phase is quite easy, you know. Doesn't take you, like, the hardest part is figuring out how do you cut tethers or not, sort of thing, how that works. The moment you figure that out, you're like, oh, okay, well that's just how you do it, you know, and it's not too bad then. It's the knockback thing. I never found it to be too big of an issue. Usually you just lose 1 GCD and then that's it. You know, I would just finish my GCD as a Dark Knight on Bloodspiller, then go off and do my ranged attack and then get pulled in, and that'll be fine. Never really had an issue. I remember the ninja I was playing with hated it because he would lose a GCD, but it's just like, yeah, whatever. Everyone loses a GCD, who cares? The Ifrit phase was also kind of boring and easy. It was literally just once you figure out the tank buster, it's just super brain dead as well. The football was probably the most interesting part of the entire fight.
Yeah.
But also not terrible. Like, once you figure that out, it's very, very easy.
Yeah.
And eventually people just cheesed it anyway, because it was also the one bit nobody understood how to do. So everyone's like, you know what, let's just stand in one orb, get up time, and, you know, do it that way, which I didn't like. I would prefer if it gave you a damage down, personally.
Yeah, that shit really should give damage downs to prevent shit like that.
And then, yeah, that's the Ifrit phase. It's just complete boring, if you ask me. And then you get the ads phase, which is also kind of... It was okay. But it was very short, but it was okay. I was just sort of just trying to work out these combination mechanics before you start the final phase. And then once the final phase starts, it's actually the same mechanics you've seen before, and not really much has changed about them with how you solve them. Like, the way you solve them in Garuda and Ifrit, it's basically the same way it's the same way you do it in Rakapashka, right? Rather than changing. You know, like, it would have been much more interesting if, you know, if the way you did solve it in those earlier phases was different. Like, you couldn't do it that way in this phase, you know. But instead, it's literally you just do it the same way, and both the mechanics solve themselves.
Yeah, it's like wasted opportunity once again.
Which I didn't like. And then the moment the fight gets good, it ends. Because the last combinations are very interesting, and you actually have to think a little bit. But the moment that those final combinations are done, it's the enrage. And you're like, oh, okay. Oh, and also, the... what's it? Conflag? It's literally just, hey, tank, can you just go stand and be sad for like 15 seconds?
You just like cucks the tanks for no reason. Like, just why did you make that?
Why? It's so silly. It's just... Oh, and I like... Okay, so that same ninja, I would just like to quote, like, I didn't really complain about losing uptime, and then he was just like, oh man, I'm getting so sick of this fight, losing 1 GCD. I'm like, dude, I have the same fucking Sadsville in the corner for 15 seconds. I don't want to hear you complain, okay, about losing a GCD. Okay, I'm over there in Sadsville. I'm there for 15 seconds just going, you know, shield lob, shield lob, shield lob, shield lob, or jerking myself off. It's so shit. Yeah, not a fan of that. Entire fight, it has...
Fucking tank man seizing.
Yeah. No. It's got nothing. It's just silly. It's silly. It's like having a week 1 strat be the only way you can do it. Because that's basically what it is.
Wait until we get to Shiva. The week 1 strat is the main one. I mean, we kind of said the same things, but we just ended up with different rankings.
Well, I think the whole fight is trash. Like, I think it's just, there's no redeeming qualities to it at all. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. And I think it goes in the dumpster. Also, it's very easy as well. It's very easy. like for a second fight, it's easier than Ramu. I thought Ramu for a first fight of a second tier, outside of Fury's 14 being way too punishing, I thought it was perfect. But yeah, also yeah, the music was yikes. It was fucking shit.
In Raktapaxa, I don't remember anything about it, so yeah, probably wasn't good.
Okay, well the next one, I'm just gonna put that in the dumpster already. Do we need anything more? It's in the dumpster.
I agree, it's in the dumpster. I have some good things to say about it. I think the portals had the potential to be like one of the coolest mechanics in the game, and they just did fucking nothing with it.
I would like to correct you. We don't talk about how cool mechanics could be. We talk about how good they were.
But like, I enjoyed figuring out the portals in the second phase. Like, I literally sat at work with like pen and paper and like drawing lines and the 2 patterns that you can get, and thinking like how this would work, like where you would go, which essentially boiled down to like a binary check whether the portals match or not. It's so fucking upsetting. And like outside of the portals, there is absolutely no redeeming qualities. The teleports are fucking scuffed. The tethers are fucking scuffed. The transition is fucking dog shit. The last part looks cool, but mechanically is trash. I don't like this fight. I think it goes to the fucking dumpster.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought the portals... Okay, so I went from dreading the portals because I thought this is way too difficult for PF, before people figured out that there was only 2 patterns, and if there were more patterns, it would have been way too hard for PF. If you actually had to work that shit out manually, this fight in PF would have been an absolute ball ache every single week because nobody would have been able to do it. I can already tell you that there was no way anybody could have done it consistently in PF. It would have been an absolute bullshit. It's an ultimate mechanic, basically, right? If they were completely RNG portals.
Which is like, if we will get an Idol Ultimate, I will be like looking forward to the portals a lot, because you can do so much with them.
But it's just how it was not even... The normal mode was harder. I'm just going to straight up say the portals in the normal mode were harder.
They actually are. They actually are.
Because they're RNG. Yeah. And the rest of the fight, the ad phase is probably the best part of the fight.
Really? I really didn't like it. And like tanks in our group also hated it.
I mean, it was basically was it T11? I think it's T11. It was the T11 ad phase, except slightly worse. But it was...
Didn't do that one.
It's still the best part of the fight, I thought. Yeah, it's just a trash fight. It's got no redeeming qualities as well. Same with, I think, Rashkapaska. It's got no really redeeming qualities, which is completely wasted potential. And the DPS check was a joke. And equally, it was easier than E5. Like the second hardest fight of this tier was Ramu, and it wasn't exactly hard. It was just for some reason.
Maybe I'll move like Raktapaxa down to see. Yeah,
I thought they were so bad. They were so bad. Both of these fights, they completely ruined the tier. I thought they were just complete dead weights.
I mean, this tier, like in general, was kind of shit because like Shiva is next, right? And not exactly the fight I think is good. And like even outside of all of the light rampant memes, rampant?
Yeah,
rampant.
Light rampant isn't even like the worst part of the fight, honestly.
Yes.
It's just one people are most known for because PF, right? PF couldn't do light rampant. I'm just going to straight up say it. And the Ilias strat, let's just start with the Ilias strat on E8. The Ilias strat was not that bad. It wasn't that bad of a strat.
It's not bad, but it's also not good, like, period.
It was bad for uptime.
Not even not for uptime, like, not at all. You have to eyeball like how far your orb have went, and then like move 90 degrees to your tower, and like you basically have to eyeball the distance, which kind of sucks. I counted GCD, but I assume PF doesn't know how to count, so that's why people.
Okay, the way you shouldn't have had to eyeball any of it, because basically, you go opposite your orb, you dodge the giant cones. The moment the cones go off, that's when you start rotating, and you're supposed to rotate like around the edge of the arena, not near the middle. If you go back in to get a bit of uptime, that's when you have to sort of eyeball it a little bit. But the intended strat was you go around the outside of the arena into the circle, and then you get hit by the orb, you move out, and yeah, that was the intended strat, right? So everyone loses a little bit of uptime. If you're melee and get the orb, everyone else keeps uptime, and it would work. But the problem is people in PF didn't do that, and most of the wipes were due to people trying to get uptime if they had the orb, or not understanding the mechanic, which was also very, very common. Or getting hit by a cone as well, also very, very common, because they would move too late around the orb, which would cause a wipe. The very start of the fight.
Okay, what do you think about the mirrors in...
The mirrors?
Yes, the mirrors at the very start of the fight.
The mirrors at the very start? Okay,
yeah.
So they weren't too bad. It was basically either...
They are not bad, not hard, but I hate them with a passion because they don't work the way they should be. Because she casts a mechanic, and the mirrors repeat the mechanic targeted at the center of the arena, which means the biting pattern where she cleaves like to 70 degrees should cover the whole fucking arena. And for some fucking reason, mirrors custom differently. There is no like consistency between the two casts, like they don't follow the same rule set. I also like really fucking hated the debate casts, because there is nothing like that in the game.
Debate cast? What do you mean?
Like when she does holy and it suddenly turns into like the proximity is, or like proximity from the center turns into proximities on the edge, or the stacks and the fake stacks.
It's you can see it on her character model, but when she's before
yes, it's on her character model. Yes, I mean I did Savage, know how to do it, but like, why would you do the debate cast? I feel like it just ruins the integrity of the game and like the way it works. Like the way it was done in Kefka is fine.
Yeah, but it's the same. The reason I think it's fine, it's about adding RNG and sort of it not being literally the same thing, but it's the same style of mechanic. It's just you either go in or you go either to the middle or you go to the edge, right? And having that not be exactly the same every single time is what leads to it being not as monotonous, especially when you're progging. So I approve of that.
I mean, I like when the casts have like different animations, like Kefka does, or like Seat of Sacrifice, Warrior of Light. I think those are good, but the way it's done... I
mean, hers is the same, so...
I really hated what they did in normal with markers appearing and disappearing and like changing what they're showing, because the markers in these games are already inconsistent enough. Like half of the time they just do some random shit.
No, but it's the same as the Kefka one, except even easier, because Kefka, he has the question marks around him, right?
Yes, and if you don't, like, it works the other way. Yes, I mean, I know we did do match together.
She had like a halo above her head.
Yes, then why would you need the markers? Like, why would you add an extra layer of fucking confusion and bullshit to the fight? Like, it's already...
It was actually just to make it easier. Like, it was just...
Maybe I'm just mad. Yeah, don't want to confuse because that debated me too many times, but I really hate it with a passion. I've written like a fucking 4,000 words essay on why I hate it. And I'm not going to repeat it since like our
okay, right. I hate this fight, but I just want to say that wasn't okay. I liked the mirrors. The mirrors were the bit I liked.
I like the second part with Luca.
The only mirrors I didn't like were the ones before the knockback mirrors, where she does the wings, like one wing, and then you have to look at the mirrors and see which
I
which
like
way
that
you do
one.
that.
I like that one. I think that is actually a creative mechanic.
The reason is it's very hard to work out very quickly before people figured out the trick to it, right? So when you're trying to actually figure out manually,
I did it manually every time. Wait, really? I never knew.
Yeah, there's a trick. If she cleaves the mirror, you go clockwise. I'm pretty sure that's it. If she cleaves the mirror, if she cleaves the blue mirror, you go clockwise. If she cleaves
I'm gonna believe you about it's fucking silly if it's actually.
Yeah, and you also always go behind her. Like you always go behind her, whichever way she goes, and then you go clockwise or you go anti-clockwise.
There is actually a small thing that I hated about those. I would do Emilio be there, and depending on the patterns you would get in the first phase, you would sometimes already have LV3, and sometimes it would like just barely tick over. And sometimes I would have to wait for that extra tick, and I would start my GCD combo. And if I already had LV3, I could just go to a proper spot and cast LV3 there, which sometimes would break my combo based on the stuff in the first phase, which is a minor complaint. It's just something I really just like.
Okay.
It's lessens my enjoyment in general.
All right, let me start with my rant now. Okay. All right, my rant.
The knockback mechanic is dumb. Go on. Sorry. Yeah.
No, okay, right. Let me start with the rant, okay? Okay, firstly, in PF, Light Rampant, way too difficult a mechanic for PF. Okay? Now, it's not that hard a mechanic. But for PF,
not that hard,
it's just too hard. It's just that little bit too hard, and it makes PF go from fun to frustrating. Because every single clear group is a Light Rampant prog group. Because once you get past Light Rampant, the rest of the fight's not too bad. It's just Light Rampant's a cunt. Right? That mechanic is just horrible. Really don't like Light Rampant in PF. In the static, no issues. Completely fine mechanic. I liked Light Rampant in my static. It was totally fine. It was comfy. Doing it in PF was annoying as hell.
Yeah, go on, sir.
What else was there? Oh, the cutscene and the ad phase. Those are both trash. I don't know.
I completely forgot to say anything about them. But yes, they are fucking terrible.
It's literally the worst part of the fight is the cutscene and the ad phase.
Yeah.
The ad phase is frustrating and annoying, especially when you can't. If the group on the other side fucks up, you wipe, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't save the run, you can't do anything. You just wipe, and you have to accept it.
It's also one of the sides is just much more easier than the other one.
That, and also it's just actually very difficult.
It is very difficult ad phase. The DPS check is actually a DPS check, and we had wipes there when we were hitting the enrage.
Yeah, very easy to do. The cutscene is just complete. It just annoys everybody, and when you're trying to prog the final 2/3 of the fight, you have to get through that cutscene every single time, and it was so bad.
Timing Huton was there, so fucking annoying. You can't. The cutscene is 55 seconds long, and you can time Huton, and there is enough time through both of the cutscenes basically. At the start and at the beginning of the phase transition, you can keep your Huton, but that's a minor thing for me.
Yeah, but I mean, on a black mage, what do you do? You just be sad.
Yes, you lose and I can.
On a monk, you just be sad.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. You're just sad. You're just in Sadsville. That's it. That part is trash. Oh, the dragon heads, especially near the end of the fight with the
stacks.
The stacks, the debuffs, and the dragon's head. The dragon head exploding it's a bit too wide and it's way too punishing. It's just so.
Yeah, we never had issues with head exploding. We had issues with people just fucking up.
Okay, so basically in PF, right, where you stack is behind the boss to the left and the right side, right? Behind the boss. Yeah. In melee range, right? And if you detonate a head on the outside of the arena in those stack points, it would clip everybody inside that stack.
I think I was reminding people to not stay too far out or something like that, or
you have to move in. You have to move in, which is fine when you're in voice chat, but when you're in PF and you're not in voice chat, people just think, usually casters, right, would stand just a little bit too, or melee going for positional. They would stand too far to the edge, get clipped, and then you wipe, because the mechanic is just an insta wipe mechanic, pretty much, if somebody dies. The tank immunity, because you're taking a tank buster at the same time. The damage done by the heads would go through tank immunity. And because of that, if you were a gunbreaker, you would die.
Vibes to that, yes.
You would just instantly die because you would pop Bolide, you would take your dragon head, and then you would die. Because at the same time as you taking the dragon head, you're taking the tank, the raid buster, you know. And you only have like 3 seconds to take the dragon head, otherwise you get the doom and die, and the raid wipes. So I think just there's so many design issues with the fight, and the DPS check was insane. Like, it was absolutely insane the first few weeks. It was the tightest DPS check they've had.
Isn't 12 harder?
Since Gold years. No. E8 is much more difficult DPS check wise.
So it's, well,
there were a lot of like world first groups couldn't clear because the DPS check was too tight. Week 1. I'm not sure if you knew that, but there was a lot of world first groups that couldn't even clear because of the DPS check.
I know it was killed first week, and like I've heard about it, but
yeah.
I assume that
it was killed by a speed kill group rather than like because, for instance,
because the
TPS. Yeah, but like for instance, TPS they couldn't meet the DPS check, and they eventually did when they swapped classes and were able to do like full uptime strats for everything, and they kind of got like a lucky run in terms of who gets the orbs during like rampant and stuff.
It's also very important. The first phase has like a lot of RNG and like good and bad patterns, especially for melees. I guess for casters too. I just didn't think about much how it works for casters.
There's a lot of RNG in it for casters in the entire fight. And that was a big thing because you needed a black mage if you wanted to clear week 1 usually for this fight, and because of that it's pretty bad, and I think I'm going to put it in C tier. There was some like the last after the ad phase. After the ad phase, it was okay, but it just has too many. For final fight, it was incredibly shit. The best fight of the tier, I thought, was Ramen. It wasn't especially like
just generated
for first fight. I thought it was good. I thought this tier was trash. Like 2 D tiers and a C tier for the final fight.
It's like 3 CNG. The things that I like about Shiva is like light rampants. I think they're actually pretty cool mechanics if you don't do Ilya for the first one, and second one is just plain cool. Would be cool to see them in Ultimate, by the way, in some form.
Yeah, I mean, it can have cool ultimate mechanics. Like light rampant basically was an ultimate tier mechanic, honestly. Yeah. It's punishing enough, and it meets all the criteria.
I mean, the last bosses of the tiers like usually have like 1 or 2 ultimate tier mechanics, like maybe not the peak of the ultimate, like wormhole or like 10 strike or suppression or whatever, but you could put them into ultimate and no would better eye, and I think it's like way too easy.
The thing is though, I think light rampant the difficulty was in the wrong place for how hard it was, because it was very much about everybody being positioned correctly, and there was no healing, there was no tanking requirement or anything the entire phase. It was literally just dance and do it. There were better strats by the end, but the Ilya strat was definitely the most prevalent, and it wasn't that bad a strat, honestly. It's just people refused to do it properly, and they would constantly try and keep up time, and they would wipe them.
I think it's easier to learn a real strat than have everyone bait orbs properly in Ilya. At least in my experience.
That's because people are stubborn, I think. They were stubborn just to run to the edge. And
I mean, I was throwing daggers. I didn't come greed for uptime. Well, I started greeding for uptime, but like when we were hitting in rage and on farm, like at those points I was greeding, but like on prog I would run away to the edge, and it's still hard to bait. Sometimes you would hit people in the center, and sometimes you would like take your orb in the tower and hit the second person next to you. It's not a consistent strat enough. The strat isn't consistent enough for me to like it. But yeah, I think C is a good place for her. Another thing, what do you think of the music? Yay or nay?
Nay, because of the first phase. Like, the first phase music is all you hear, and you heard that shit back in Chief and A Realm Reborn. Like, I would have preferred a new song for that. But yeah, I mean, the final phase music was good.
Yeah. And the second part of the Shiva in ARR, I also like it more. Oblivion. Is it Oblivion? Yeah, I think it's Oblivion. It's called Oblivion.
Yeah, like if it was actually phase 2 music started off with it, I'd be a lot happier with it, but still not like completely happy. I would prefer like a completely new song, like two completely new songs.
Yeah.
I thought that would have
that would
been
have
much
been much
better.
Yeah. Also, one more thing about Shiva, please stop putting sliding mechanics into fights, they're not fun.
They are fun.
No?
I liked them. You can keep them. Yeah.
I play as a ninja and have two Shukuchi characters, like they literally don't matter to me and I still hate them. Well, not hate them, I dislike them.
I play as every other class and I don't care.
But even in the class, that like can ignore them.
Okay, it's fun to slide, and it's fun to see people slide off the arena. Okay, I like watching somebody just slide off the arena because they face their camera the wrong direction. It's hilarious.
It's not fun to vibe to the fucking diamond dice in Eden 12 at all. But we will get there. Okay, I think you should move on. I think you said everything about Shiva. Cloud of Darkness. I'm gonna drop your in A and then think a bit more about it. I think it's a good fight.
Cloud of Darkness, where's she? Let me find her on the tier. Ah, there she is. It's either A or B.
Like the thing that I don't like about her is the tether snapshots. Sometimes they just go somewhere where they are not supposed to. We did it completely. Like first 3 fights we did blind. Or, well, Footbreaker, the end of it we've looked up. But yeah, Cloud of Darkness we did our own strats, and it wasn't very good the way we dropped the pods. So sometimes the tether would jump like to the other group, and it would suck, but I think it's a cool fight. There is like a lot of ways to do the mechanics in it. There is some different permutation in Skjor, so like every pull you will need to adjust a little bit. The empty play and phase is really fucking cool. Like that one in Ultimate will be even more fun, I think.
I don't think we'll see this fight in Ultimate.
Probably not, yeah. But it could have, like, you could do more with that mechanic, like with the concept. Summon is cool. I really like summon-like mechanics where you need to like visualize Ace in your head and find the safe spot. Yeah, I don't think I have any issues with her. I don't like that.
I thought the fight was fun. I thought the fight itself was very fun. But some of the issues, I had some issues with some of the mechanics, right? Because I think for first fight, it was about as punishing as Ramu, I would say. Well, yeah, it's both less punishing and more punishing than Ramu. Like a lot of the fight is a bit more punishing, but then like obviously it's at Fury's 14, which is super punishing. Like I'd say Cloud of Darkness is more punishing, which is a bit annoying for first fight. The tether phase I thought was kind of annoying.
Yeah,
because
it's not bad but annoying.
It was annoying in PF because usually people were just kind of bad at it.
Actually, a question: how do PF do that? We had our own strats, and I don't know the real strats for it. Like, I think you drop them into sets of squares and just stay like kind of in within them. You
basically drop them max melee on the intercardinal positions, and then if you're a tank or a healer, you either go north or east, and if you're a DPS, you either go south or west. And then you basically run, the two groups of people will run through each other to break the tethers.
And healers and DPS get tethered to each other.
Yeah, tanks and healers get tethered to DPS.
Oh, okay. So like you form a cross, basically.
Yeah, you basically form like two groups, like.
And you have like very short pod tether. Okay,
yeah, because you also get tethered to the closest pod as well, right? Yeah. So the tanks and healers would get tethered to the pods on their side. DPS will get tethered to the pods on their side. And they also get tethered to each other, and you run through to the opposite side to break all the tethers up.
Okay, cool.
That strat was fine. It's just people are stupid and they wouldn't do it properly. Like they would pre-position in the wrong spot, and like and then it would basically give you a damage down or kill you, and it was annoying.
We did it very differently.
My most problem with that phase is the second time you see that phase, with how some of the triple mechanics work with the with the two giant things on the side of the arena that she tethers as well. That mechanic is just very, very tight, and nobody in PF could spread it or stack properly.
Oh, okay. We had so many fucking vibes there. We've been heal being that like 2 months.
The PF strat is to heal LB. That's also the PF strat because people just can't do it.
And then we got to the point where DPS could survive the spread on their own without the partner. Oh, sorry, the stacks on their own. Or like I could survive. We had, but it's like it's stupidity. I don't think it's bad. It's maybe a bit too tight on movement. Yeah, it could be like more lenient.
For first fight, it's too hard. It's like for first fight, there shouldn't be a mechanic that's that difficult.
Or at least maybe like not that late.
That's a mechanic for a third fight. That's like all that. It's like a fight for a third fight of a tier, not a first fight. If you ask me. Because it's an introductory fight, right? You gotta remember, the first fight is supposed to be an introductory for not exactly new players, but like not as strong players, right? So, and I think it's just a bit too difficult for them. It's just a bit too difficult for them. Ramu had the same problem. This one also had the same problem, but it very much became very exacerbated with the tile phase. The tile phase in this fight in PF is awful. It's so bad. People don't know how to do that phase at all. In voice chat, you can tell people when you're moving. You can tell people when to reset their tiles before the next mechanic. You can communicate that. In PF, you can't communicate that, and because of that, people had to learn it themselves, the entire tile phase, and it's just far too difficult. And if somebody dies, it usually kills somebody else.
Solved that mechanic relatively quickly. We solved it within our like first raid prog night, I think. Yeah, we killed it first week. And basically I just like drew a picture in paint. It was like very suboptimal, but very efficient, and we didn't have that many issues with it. Like as a melee, I would sit on the face of the boss and we would make healers like go very long distance, but it was easy and consistent. Only like casters in the back would need to do an extra reset, basically.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of different. Yeah, there was basically one universal strat that eventually came out from it, which was like the best way to do it. But for PF, it was just like it's just too difficult. It's too difficult, too punishing, because like if somebody dies, it kills somebody else. Right, and then if those two people don't get rezzed very quickly, it'll then kill someone else. And people didn't know that if they got raised, they can't attack. They just have to move to their tile before the res immunity runs out. They would get it. Like the number of times where I would see a ninja get raised, and then the first thing he does is press his fucking ninjutsu to start his Huton, and he would kill himself and the healer who just raised him.
Yep.
Like, oh my god, it's so.
When we learned that you can actually race there and just run without sprinting,
it was so annoying.
So easy to recover.
When we were PFing it, like for instance, like me and Misa, we PF'd it. If somebody died during that phase, we just assumed they didn't know how to do that phase, and we would let them be dead because it was safer than raising them.
Yeah.
Because if she raises them, they would kill her, and that was annoying. Because then we just wipe. So I think it's too annoying, too frustrating for first tier. I thought doing it in the static was okay. It was a good first fight in a static. In PF, it's a bit too annoying, and I think
that's fair enough.
You have to rate both experiences. I think like PF is just as the majority of the player base do it strictly in PF. So
I never progged in PF, so can't really relate to that experience. I'm not sure if I should rate on both occasions. Like, I don't think PF is a viable way of doing waves, at least for like serious content.
Oh, it's very viable. You can clear in PF in week 2.
Although, and I know that Japanese servers, like Japanese players, raid in PF a lot, and they have like macros for everything, and they just don't communicate at all.
No, I mean you can clear all the raids in PF very easily.
Sure, like I know people who did, but like people in our group cleared like some Stormblood raids when they were relevant content, but I don't think it's for me. I don't like PF a lot.
I mean, you cannot like PF, but it's still. I think it's still very important to label how PF does fights, because just how.
I also don't like
you have an understanding of how annoying certain mechanics can be. Like,
I mean, yeah, I can definitely imagine that, but I don't know. For me, like more often than not, like the more difficult, the better it is. But obviously, there is like some merit to that. But
for me, it needs to be fun. That's strictly. It just needs to be fun, because PF's going to give you. It's like doing it with a handicap.
Yeah, I would probably hate it in PF.
Anyway. I don't hate this fight in PF. I just hate getting killed by the guy going for positional and he's next to me and he stands on my tile and kills me, and that's annoying. They try and get an extra GCD and they shoot the laser across the arena and hit you and you get damage down.
I sat on the face of the boss throughout the whole fucking phase and I was losing 40 potency exactly from that. Just don't go for positionals. It's 40 potency. It's less than 1 auto attack. It's less than 1 auto attack crit difference.
Yeah, that doesn't work with PF, man. They do it. Okay, this is the rule, PF. If it's a melee, they will go for positionals and they will greed uptime. And if it's a caster, they will stand still and try to greed a cast. If there's any mechanics which make it really annoying to do either of those things, they're going to try and kill, and they'll kill whoever is on the receiving end.
We should stop talking about logs in PF. Like yesterday we said that this is a forbidden topic. Let's
No, but I'm just saying that's the PF experience, that you have a better understanding that's just sort of how it functions a little bit.
I did 80 kills of Warrior of Light in PF and
so you probably know how bad people can be.
I was fed up with PF after that. Like that was the least fun thing I've done in this game, I think. Anyway, I think we should move to the dog.
Doggo, I think it's either C or D, I'm not sure which.
I think it's either A or B, probably B.
I'm gonna stick it in D.
I enjoyed this fight a lot.
Tier.
I enjoyed this fight a lot, but if I put my enjoyment aside, it's an average fight, I'd say. I really like the clone mechanic. I like that every pull you have to pay attention to it and visualize AoEs. So every pull you have something to do. So it's not just a fucking striking dummy. There is a lot of bad mechanics, I would say, like having to disengage for just no fucking reason. The knockback doesn't really add anything. Void Gate 1 is also just you draw AoEs and they don't really do anything. I mean, I get the idea that they're supposed to cover the space you have to take the orb, but you just knockback immunity. It's that simple. The orbs, I can imagine in PF. Oh, okay, orbs in PF would fucking suck. Yeah. But it's really easy to do, and we actually didn't do them the easy way, where you just look north and go clockwise and counterclockwise. We had something like that, but more complicated. We basically had a set positioning for each possible permutation, but it was following the same idea. The part with jumping dogs, where you have to go to the edge, that one, we had a lot of vibes to that because people were either too late or would go to the wrong spot, or too far, and the orb would go on someone else. And again, you have to disengage there, which is annoying. Void Gate, the towers, is the towers part of the Void Gate? Or yeah, Void Gate is a tower.
Yeah, Void Gate's the towers, Pitch Bog
is the pada. Okay, sorry, Pitch Bog 1 is dumb. Void Gate 1 is okay, I guess it's a decent second fight mechanic. Void Gate 2, I really like that part actually. You would in PF it must be horrible because people can't do the cleaves and then also find their spot for the Shadow Keeper. In a group it was fine. I was calling out the safe spots, and yeah, in the group it's a really good mechanic, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Shadow Keeper repositioning it's stuff that you have to run out so quickly, the clone repositions and instantly fucking cleaves you. It didn't need to be that tight. It could be more lenient. What else? The tethers from the Alexander 12, it's exactly the same tethers, right? Okay, that one also sucks in PF. I think mechanic is fine, but it's not very fun either. What else? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I like that you have to do everything, every pull. Void Gate 1 is okay, Void Gate 2 is cool, but in PF it must have been a fucking traumatic experience.
It's damage down city, basically, because
we had
somebody will always.
But yeah, I would, like, for me, from a group perspective, I would put it in B. Yeah, it has a lot of to do, but... Or maybe even A.
I would say C. I would say C for group. Like, but for PF, it's like an F tier. It's okay. Let's start with this. Okay, so I procced it as a tank and a caster. The tank buster is
tank buster
very
is
unfair.
tough.
It's very unfair because on some tanks it's very okay. If you're on warrior, you just home gang, and it's easy, and it makes your co-tank life easy as well because they just use their immunity and that's it. If you don't have a warrior, then you have to cool down that shit, and it hurts like a motherfucker. It really, really does, and that kind of really hurts the tank balance because a lot of healers just don't want to heal that, and
We involved, yes. When we learned how we involved, and the one that we had to heal, we struggled at first, and that's like even with feint and like full mitigation of that one.
Yeah, you literally use everything, otherwise you just die. It only became easier when people overgeared it. So I think that tank buster is just a bit unfair. I would have preferred more tank busters, which were smaller. That would have been more fair to all the tanks rather than just one giant one, which is 4 minutes apart.
Actually,
which Warriors is salivating over, but every other tank is super sad about.
I generally don't like how this tier, like, you have so little busters in the fights. You have like 2-3 busters and just fucking.
I just want to state, you've not had any busters all of Shadowbringers. Like, all of these fights don't have any. There's no proper tanking. Quite.
Yeah. Yes.
None of them are very difficult. It's just not a single one is hard to tank really. It's a bit disappointing. Maybe Titan is probably the most interesting. Okay, so you have that. You have the shadows as well. When you get the human shadows and it cleaves. In PF, that's also a nightmare because people don't know how to do it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like you can't really call it out in the group either, and you just have to rely on people. I was
relying on people doing it right.
We had to swap a tank when we were like halfway through the Fate Breaker, so we like dragged him through the first 2 fights, and I was just like telling him where to go before.
Misa is such a beast because what she would do is rescue people into their correct spot before going to hers.
Oh, that's quite based.
Right, she would do that because that's how bad people were doing that mechanic. Right, and she learned to do that because of PF. That probably gives you an idea of how bad people are at that mechanic. The orbs, okay, the orbs are typically not an issue, and you were saying the knockback is pointless. The knockback is a blessing, because what happens if somebody forgets to use the knockback resist? What will happen is they will
fly away and take the orb alone, yes.
And then take the orb alone, which is amazing, right? Yeah. Because it's hilarious, right? And the orb wouldn't kill anyone else. But when you're doing the lineup, if somebody was fucked up, they would die, or they would kill everybody, right? Usually the latter. Usually, if somebody's trying to get an extra GCD, they run in too late. They get the tank orb and they get their own orb, and they are also inside their group, right? And so they would.
Did people not do the strat where you just let the tank invuln all orbs in the middle and take damage downs?
No. That came a lot. I'm not sure if they even do that now. Like,
I mean, that's by far the easiest way to do it. Except that you have to heal an extra buster.
People didn't do that. I mean, you gotta remember as well, healing busters was not what people like to do because that shit hurt. It really, really did hurt. Especially in the early weeks. So yeah, those orbs were an absolute nightmare, especially the lineup orbs. Awful. Void Gate 2. Void Gate 1 was fine, usually. Most of the other mechanics were fine. It's just the Void Gate 2 as well, absolutely awful. Awful in PF.
It's very fun in the group.
They very, very often wipe there, and because of the backwards difficulty curve, just makes it way worse. So, don't like this fight. It goes in D tier. Yeah, I put it on the same tier as those other 2 fights. It's just really bad. I don't like it. I don't like that fight at all. Lot of problems.
Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Fate Breaker. I want to see where you place him and then talk about this. Like, I'm probably gonna place him in C. Okay.
Yeah, I placed him. There you go. I think this is the only good final fight we've had. Its expansion, like third fight.
Whoa. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's an A tier fight.
Who's gonna go first? Because I think it's a pretty mediocre fight.
Okay, you go first. You can go first.
I think it's too long. It has way too many transitions. It has way too many repeat mechanics. The permutations, like you have random bird strikes, and like the permutations are really simple. It feels like an autopilot fight. The checks, like for the checks to see whether you're doing this or that, is really simple. Especially in a group where I could just call out everything. The last part is cool. The circles are pretty cool. It's like intensive on healing, on mitigation, quick positioning. That part is cool, but other than that, it's like too boring and too long. I don't think we have like much to say about it. Figuring out mechanics was cool, I guess, but didn't take us a long time.
Okay. I think the mechanics are all kind of good. I don't think
it's like it's like apart from being longer, too many phases, I don't think there is like something very bad about it, but it just there is nothing good about it either. Also hate how it looks, but it's like beyond the point.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I think the difficulty was about right for third fight. Maybe slightly too easy still. But it was about right. Like DPS check was basically perfect for third fight.
Yeah, DPS check is good.
And I thought it was just very enjoyable. Like to actually just do the mechanics, I thought it was enjoyable. While you can't really say that for like E7, it's just not enjoyable to do a lot of these mechanics. I thought these ones were just just dodge, go back in, and stack up and do all that. Avoid the tether, stack with the tether. Make the tanks take the tether. That sort of thing. The cycles I thought were the best bit. I don't like them being at the end of the fight, but
yeah,
that was the only place they could have been, because you're basically the entire fight you're practicing these mechanics so much that when you get to cycles,
I think
it's not too bad.
I think you're practicing way too much. I think the last transition was excessive. Like where with the clones and the whole last phase,
in the invisibility.
You just shove the cycles right after the Protean plus the lenses. Protean plus the lenses is a cool mechanic, and you could go into cycles like that, and the fight would be like 5 minutes shorter.
Prismatic Deception I thought was too easy a mechanic. The other two I thought were perfect. I really liked those transitions, but I think Prismatic Deception. I would be okay if the first Deception was like that, and then the second Deception had a different mechanic, like completely different mechanic.
The first one, how it's called, Burnt Sky. It's cool the first few times, but after that it's like too easy. Sundered Sky is pretty cool. I think took some time to figure out that you need to aim the dragon away.
Yeah.
And me reminding across but not through middle to people so they don't run into the fucking blue puddle in the middle.
It also was I thought the entire fight was very well telegraphed, right? Which was very important for PF, because you run to the same color, because you're able to say it that easily. People knew what to do, It wasn't something anyone had to remember. You just go to the same color, and then they can do that in PF, And it's the same tethers that it has earlier in the fight, so you know what they do already. You know which one's the stack, which one's the yellow one, and what they do. So I thought it was just a very good fight overall. I thought it was fun to do. The DPS check was in the perfect spot. Prismatic Deception was a bit weak. The overall fight difficulty was a tiny tinge easy, not too bad though. It randomizes a lot. The only problem is it didn't randomize the when you first introduced to the yellows. I would have preferred if it just started with that, where you have potentially all three of them, since you've seen it all in normal mode anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good fight.
No, I said what I had to say, and we kind of said the same things again, but ended up with different rankings, mostly because they did it in a group and you did it in VF.
No, I did it in both. I did it both in a group and in PO. In a group, I thought it was fine.
I was falling asleep. It's like took us way too long.
I mean, maybe it's because I was playing. I mean, I did it on tank and I did it on black mage, and I didn't think either one was about it. Like on tank, you have a bit more busters than usual, and you have to position for the busters and stuff, which I thought was good. You know, like the lightning tether busters is interesting and good.
I did it on ninja, and like the ninja maybe is still the highest DPS on the fight because it just perfectly aligns with the job, and you don't even need to think about like optimization. It just works if you play the job correctly, obviously. Which, like, I like when I have to think about my rotation at least a little bit, or at least figure it out, and it was way too easy. But yeah,
on black mage, I felt like I had to do quite a lot, and it wasn't annoying to do, so I thought it was very good. Doggo was kind of annoying to do on black mage, as you can probably imagine, especially Void Gig 2. And same with the tethers in World of Darkness. It's just a lot of movement, a bit annoying, but no, I thought this fight was very good. It was the best third fight we've had this expansion, I thought. Better than Leviathan, because it's basically good throughout, while Leviathan is only good after a while.
I mean, it's the best.
E7 is just trash. So
judging by my tiering, it's like above 7 and 3, yes. But they also are just a fucking dumpster for me. Yeah. 12? Or like 12 part 1?
Oh, 12 part 1? I think that's an S tier.
I am thinking like it's either S or A. Like, I'm not sure yet. It's a really good fight. It's a really, really good fight.
Yeah, I really liked it. There's only a couple things that would make me move it down a little bit. The first thing I think is the Shiva phase. The icicles being physical damage, I think, was a mistake, because it meant casters and healers just get absolutely destroyed.
Yes, the way how armor works.
Yes, I understand. People are like, well, why is everything always magic? But there's a reason for it, and it's because the game's balanced around always being magic.
That was dumb.
If casters had higher HP base, right, and then melee had lower HP, then it would be okay if everything was physical damage. But that's not what happens. So it's the other way around. So most attacks being magic, I think is good. And this one it wasn't good for it to be physical. Made it annoying. Made it very annoying for tanks to try and mitigate it as well, because Dark Knight and Gunbreaker both reduce magic damage, and they can't help with that at all. The other thing is the tank buster being 6 minutes and 50 seconds apart. Made it so that if you're a paladin, you can get fucked, because you can use 2 hologram no matter what between the first and last one.
Yeah, we had Dark Knight and a Paladin, and we used to have Paladin use it first, but ended up swapping to Dark Knight so you could do it for the third one.
Yeah, most people swapped from Paladin because of that, and
Paladin is very good in the fight though for the extra mitigation.
It's good for P2. It's not very good in P1 because of that tank burst is just too brutal. We did it blind at first. We didn't do it fully blind, but we healers were confused. Like, are you actually supposed to mitigate and heal that? Because they just do way too much fucking damage. Yeah, pretty much.
We did up to Titan blind, if I remember correctly. The thing that I don't like about the fight is the last phase after the Lions. It's just too easy.
I thought that was fine. It's.
I mean, I wouldn't want another Lion level difficulty mechanic.
No, and honestly, the only other thing which I really disliked about the fight was Lions. I didn't even want to do PF because I knew Lions. People had the same experience with Lions as they did with Shiva, and I'm just like, I'll take a hard pass on E12 and PF.
We did the line strat where the people with tethers just line up in a straight line in the middle of the arena, and it was much more tight on positioning than I thought it would be. But the reason why we like to line is like, oh, I thought I had the other tether, I forgot to move, or I missed positioned my first big fire puddle improperly.
Yeah, we did cross Lions for us. I think no matter which strat you have, it's tight as hell, and it's a little bit too tight.
It's probably a little bit too tight, yeah. I think mechanically the idea is cool, but it's just a bit too tight on positioning. Yeah, I would agree to that.
It's too tight on positioning, and it's a bit too quick as well. It's an ultimate tier mechanic, and
no doubt.
I like ultimate tier mechanics, but I don't like them in Savage because it's just, especially near the end of a fight. It's very very near the end of the fight. It's the last proper mechanic you have to do, and it's just brutal.
I agree to that, but I also really like that the last boss of the tier has this like big iconic cockblock mechanic that's like really complex. That
you can have that at the beginning of the fight, just not at the end.
Yeah, but like, you know how in writing and movies, like you have to have a build up, right? You can't just drop the hardest part at the start, because it's only gonna go down from that.
The problem is, right?
I mean, I understand that
monotonous, because it's just a backwards difficulty curve where it starts off harder and then gets easier. It makes it so that the amount of time you're progging everything is consistent.
I think the best way is when it's like in the middle, like you have a race up to the middle and then like it slowly falls off that. I think that's the kind I prefer. Like the way they did in tier, like Living Liquid is moderate, Brew Justice, Crew Chase, it is really hard, and like the Wormhole, it should have been like right after them, and then it just goes down, but you still have plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah, but this is the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I agree. Like, I would prefer Lions in a different, like maybe swap them with the sculpture thing.
I would prefer the last mechanic being Titan. Like if it went like all of those lions and all of those mechanics first in the fight, and then you do Shiva and then you do Titan. I would prefer that as the ordering.
Probably would have been better, although Shiva is quite hard. It's like the second hardest mechanic in the fight, I think.
It is, but that would still be like halfway through the fight rather than like near the end, because of how sort of long that whole phase would be. I mean, basically you go Lions into Shiva and it'd be like halfway through the fight, which I think would be a lot healthier than Lions being 80% of the fight. But yeah, that's the only thing that makes me want to put it down to an A tier. But the fight was very good overall, I thought.
It was. Like, we progged it. We were stuck on it for like 2 months, I want to say. I'm probably exaggerating, but we were there for a really long time, and I still enjoy it.
The DPS check in the phase was very tight.
Very tight.
It was easier than Shiva, so I think it was about where it needed to be.
Relatively, it was.
Maybe like I said, it's like
for us.
If Titan needed to be like 0.5% easier, Shiva probably needed to be like 2% easier, and this one probably needs to be 1% easier. Just that little bit of leeway added. Not so much so that it's too easy to clear week 1, because I'm just going to say with 1% easier, it's still not going to be easy to do.
Yeah, but you could afford an extra death, because
probably not with 1%. A death is usually about 2% down, 2%.
Well, I guess then you could just drop some more like uptime GCDs, play suboptimally. Because we had a death on our first clear, I think, and
I know for week 1 progress
we had 0% speed percentile.
Yeah, I know for week 1 progress it was extremely frustrating because of Lion RNG. If you had DPS get Lions...
Yes, it's very important, yes.
It was very important to get that if you wanted to beat the DPS check. Which is why I said it's a bit too tight.
It's so annoying contingency as well. Also, like a small minor thing, I don't like sculptures because of the knockback, because Shikuchi is like very hard to use for knockback cancelling. Because if you got knocked back, you can't cast Shikuchi, just period. Even with the macro, you can't target it. And if you cast it too early, you will teleport and get knocked back. So the way you have to do it, you have to start the cast before the knockback, but the cast has to finish after the knockback. And without like a proper tell on when the knockback happens, like there is no cast bar in the enmity list. You just have to go like by a gut feeling if you want to like Shikuchi cancel it. But that has really nothing to do with the fight. It's just a minor thing that annoyed me about the fight a lot.
Yeah, I thought the fight was good. It's just those little things that they probably it doesn't detract it from being an S tier fight, but those things probably shouldn't have been how they were. Like the Shiva shouldn't have been physical.
Yeah.
The Lions should have given you like a couple seconds extra leeway and maybe made the AoEs like, you know, just tiny little bit thinner.
Yeah, so it's easier to position them, yes.
Yeah, and the DPS check probably 1% easier. If they did all that, it would have been massively less annoying and made it more fun. Like, yeah, making fights easier can make it more fun. This one is a good example.
But still, relativistically, I think it deserves this. At least looking at my tier list. Oracle?
I think Oracle as well is an S tier. I think it's also very good.
I really wish I could blind prog it, but not with our group. We weren't getting through the gate boss consistently. I fucking love the debuff mechanics, like the time stops or like hello wall, like those kinds of mechanics, or like grand crosses in X-Death. So I absolutely fucking love the Oracle of Darkness and how it works. Basic relativity is the hardest relativity in the fight, by the way, because that's the only one where you have to actually adjust and like react. And on others, it's like you have this debuff, you do this.
I would probably say I personally think the second one was the hardest. I imagine for blind prog, the third one was probably the hardest.
For blind prog, yeah, it's like late into the fight and
very
confusing.
Complex.
It's complicated, yes.
The first one is probably harder to work out than the second one. The second one is probably quite easy for world proggers, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But the third one is probably the hardest to work out.
I would really love to
my guess.
Figure it out myself. Like I just really enjoy this kind of puzzles. I didn't like Apocalypses that much. Like first one is a joke. Third one is fine. Like it's just a genuinely hard mechanic. Second one can schlob my nog. It's very annoying for tanks and for melees. It like didn't need to be as tight or annoying.
Okay. The second and third, I would say the only issue I have with the fight personally is the second and third epoch. Like you said, for tanks, it's just I don't know. It just needed to give you like an extra second, you know. Like you know the delay between the first buster and the second buster, that it just needed to be half a second to a second longer. Yeah. And it would have made it so much better for everyone.
And for the third one, I've died to a middle explosion a bunch of times because I tried to Shoguchi cancel the knockback and I could do it consistently, but like if I do it too early, I get hit by a middle AoE as I fly right through it. Like I fly back and fly back in, and I would get hit by it.
I would imagine in PF that one being absolutely awful because people don't know where to stand and probably be a white machine.
Yeah. It took us some time, and like I was partially
intermediate as well. Intermediate as well in PF, I imagine being awful. Intermediate relativity.
Intermediate, awful, we got really quickly. We got like one to both.
Second epoch as well. I would imagine being awful.
We weren't viping there, but we had a fuck ton of damage downs before tanks and me figured out how to do it properly. Because like you essentially have two patterns if they start north and south, or like east and west, or like relative to the arena, whatever, and you need to move differently depending on that. And I would always confuse in my head like how it works. I like took a lot of damage downs there for no reason. I think my highest part might be with a damage down. But yeah, I think it's a last fight. It maybe was A for us because like people were tired, and I didn't get to blind prog it, but yeah, it's really good.
It's either an S or an A. It depends on how bad certain points to it were in PF, and I didn't really experience that myself. I think it was probably an S though. I think it was probably an S. The third A.
The music is also annoying. The music is good. The arena is good. Like thematically, it's very nice.
Yeah, it has a good flow to it as well.
The few things that I don't like is that the 1 HP mechanic at the start is not used ever again. I felt like they wanted to reuse it, but just didn't find where else to put it. And the busters, there is 2 busters and you just involve them. That's dumb.
No, I think the busters were actually good in this fight. Looking at it, because
I mean, you have the dances and.
Yeah, all of those are also tank busters, and also there were tank busters in basic relativity as well, and so I think overall it had a good amount of busters. Like all of those things added together, that's an okay amount of busters. You know, that's like a good pacing amount. Like for instance, Mega Tits, first phase. She has 3 the entire time. That's nah. For 9-minute fight 3, you serious? You serious? Like, really?
Speaking of cooldowns, like, it's not that hard for tanks, but like for my job, for my rotation as a ninja, I enjoyed figuring out the Oracle of Darkness a lot, like how to deal with the time stops. Or like, not time stops. Well, I guess you can call them time stops, and like how to precast my...
Yeah, I mean, I mostly did this with Black Mage. Like, this fight was...
The only thing, another minor thing, is LB3 timing. If you don't LB before advanced, you don't really have time after, because you need to burst right after it, and it's triple apoc.
Yeah.
And you have another 60-second burst right before the advanced relative, which is like I was just LBing at the end of my own trick and skipping some GCDs.
Also, from looking at Warpro, I believe the DPS check was easier. The phase 2,
yes,
P2 DPS check was easier.
Yes,
than P1.
it's like 5k DPS easier than the first phase.
It's hard to use that because of downtime differences, but like
it's accounting for the downtime, at least according to like Salted Xiv.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's
not
easier,
5k. It's not that much easier. Like it's about 2% easier, which is about what the previous boss needed to be, right? It's like if somebody dies, it's a wipe, right? Which is fine. Somebody gets damage down, you might, if you're very lucky, be able to get the enrage, but it's very unlikely. It's just not tight enough to where you can. If you can do the DPS check without needing people to play literally perfectly, then it's a good DPS check.
Yeah. We had 2.1% vibes to Oracle of Darkness and another one like 0.3 or something like that, and that was quite upsetting for many people. But we still had like a bunch of damage downs.
Yeah.
But people, we killed it like 18 weeks or something in, so people were just very tired from the game and wanted to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, you were also most likely very overgeared for it as well.
Yeah, and like we still struggled with the DPS check.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Miho played perfectly, but like we were a very casual group, so like not blaming anyone. Everyone did it right. Especially Oracle, we procced really fucking quickly. Actually, the gate boss took us a while.
Yeah, I think they both took us about equally long. I think in my Saturday. Yeah, I think they're about equally quick.
Okay.
Well, equally slow, more specifically. Like Lions, fuck Lions, man.
Yeah, Lions took us a while.
I didn't like Lions because it was too hard, but you know that's just it's like the difference between Ultimate and Savage, right? It just crosses that boundary and it's just becomes not good.
Okay, do we want to do the rest of the fights that are in the list?
Well, I think we should just crack out the EX trials. Just talk about them very briefly. So, for instance, for me, Titania, I think I'm going to give it a B. I thought it was.
I will agree. It's like average.
It was okay to farm, and it had a good flow to it.
Yeah,
and it was quite fun. So
Titania normal is harder than Titania extreme, by the way.
I think Innocence is an A because it's very much on it's very much on individual play and doing the mechanics correctly, and it wasn't too difficult.
It's D because it's like PC and there is like no fucking mechanics.
I mean, you don't want a hard one. You don't want a hard one for an EX trial because you have to farm it 99 times.
I mean,
you don't want a wipe.
I did it like 80 times, but I don't know. I don't like the fight. It's easy.
I think Hades, C or D.
C or D. Yeah, it's too
C
long.
tier, cutscene tier. Like literally, I just realized literally Shiva's in cutscene tier. Yeah, cutscene tier. Because it's a giant cutscene. I Ruby Weapon, same thing, cutscene tier. Putting that in S tier because Warrior of Light I thought was really good. Emerald Weapon goes into dumpster because it's trash. And
it's pretty much one mechanic fight, and it's not that
Diamond. I think B tier. I think Diamond B tier. I think Warrior of Light was very fun to farm.
There is nothing good about Diamond, so like. Or bad, so yeah, BRC. Warrior Flight, I have fucking trauma from that fight. PF can't do that fight. PF still can't do that fight, even with overgear, somehow.
Well, when I farmed it, PF were okay at it.
It was easier on the release than after.
You sometimes had wipes, but
I don't know.
too bad.
I think it's a good fight. There is a bit too much RNG for my optimization because there is some patterns that are just way too fucking good compared to others, and you just feel cucked when it doesn't happen.
I think
it's like A for me, and I'm trying to not account for my fucking trauma here.
Hades is a giant cutscene, it's also very easy.
It's also not very good.
And it's also not very good, yeah. It's just... You're basically just watching a cinematic. It's just, yeah.
Especially when people found out, like, day 3 about the safe spot for the last phase.
There you go. Renamed my C tier to cinematic tier. Emerald, I think, was the worst EX trial because the fight is crap.
It's one mechanic and it's not that hard and it's not that good.
And you're doing 2 fights for 1 totem. And with a giant cutscene in the middle, it's just
if it would have been 2 totems, I think it would have been better, or at least not better. It's like would be less frustrating to do. I'm very glad I got them on quickly. I'm very glad I got them on.
I did not, so I hated this fight.
But yeah, I wanted to take like 5-minute break, grab another drink, take a leak before we go about the good stuff that's left. Oh yeah, I forgot to move. Wait, I put the Uvu instead of the diamond weapon in B. Okay, anyway, I'll be right back in like a few minutes.
No, there's still sound. I think Love has gone for a drink, Amber. We just finished talking about the Savage and EX trials. I managed to finally vent my hatred of cutscenes. I created a cutscene tier for the fights with cutscenes. I don't think I've actually missed any fights that don't have a cutscene in there. Thing is, they all deserve to be there as well, so... I really hope they don't add any cinematics next expansion. Overall, though, I have to say this expansion for the Savage has been a little bit disappointing.
I'm back. Was it? I mean, this is the first expansion I played like fully. The others I only did the last.
Okay, I did. I've been playing I played in Aroma Born. I didn't do all of Heaven's Word, but I went back and did the Midnight level in Stormblood, and I did. I did Stormblood when it was current and Shadowbringers. Obviously, I think Shadowbringers is probably the weakest fading expansion overall. In Stormblood, there was the occasional bad fight, but most of the fights were good. I
did like a victory lap in Stormblood. All the last fights are good, I would say. I understand why MNF people hate MNF, but I think like mechanically it's a fine fight.
I didn't like X-Death, personally.
Well, I did it on Blue Mage and like at the end of Stormblood with Overgear. The Grand Crosses are really cool, I think. The other mechanics, kinda meh, sure.
Actually, let's start by talking about Blue Mage.
Okay, yeah. I wanted... sorry, I'll speak over you and then let you speak. I was considering making like SSS tier or like S plus tier because that's where Blue Mage belongs. It's like the best content in the game outside of Ultimates.
No, I think this is fine. I would put it A tier, personally.
Really?
Yeah, I'd put it A tier. I have reasons.
I've done it twice, or like 1.5 times. Yeah. And I enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah, like the 8 fucking sucks to reproc. It takes a long time. And like when you know how to do it and wait for other people, it's a little bit frustrating, but the rest,
okay.
I don't know. Generally, I think it's like the best content in the game because you know how the fight works, but you have like new challenges that you need to solve to progress. There is some jank, but not a whole lot of jank.
So pre 70 Blue Mage, I would honestly put it B tier or even C tier because of how janky it was to tank and heal on pre 70. DPS,
I tanked.
But tanking and healing it was pretty awful. And post 70, like when they released the 70 skills, I think now it's an A tier. But still, tanking and healing it's a significant step down in comparison to playing it on DPS. I think playing on DPS looks very fun.
I mean,
Playing on tank can be pretty
true.
frustrating at times.
That's true, but also I felt like you know how in art people like purposefully limit themselves to like push like within the constraints find like new ways to solve something. Like the constraints help you like to develop and to I don't know, get better, find new solutions, and like working within those limitations of having basically blood drain and diamondback and having also to manage aggro. It was super fucking janky, like no doubt, but I enjoyed dealing with those difficulties when I was tanking.
Okay, I'm just gonna say I don't like tanking when I don't have a range provoke, and I also don't like tanking when I have a provoke that's on a cast time on the GCD, and it costs mana, and it takes off one of my spell spots. It's just very, very. It's just a bit too janky. Just a bit too janky.
The thing is, it barely matters outside from the Gavel.
No, but the point is, it does matter. It does matter. It's like if I die, it's something I need to think about. You know?
Well, just don't die then. It's not simple.
Yeah, it's not always in my control. You know?
Sure.
Not always something that I can decide, you know? Just don't get crit full head. You know? Doesn't quite work that way. And it's just like the jank, I think, really detracts from it. It moves it from an S to an A tier, but I think it's really fantastic content because it's, especially if you're doing it on DPS or even healer. Healing is probably also, it's probably a bit janky, but it's probably fine. But doing on tank, it's a bit too much in the jank side. But
I didn't mind it that much. Figuring out Bahamut how to do it back then was like so fucking cool.
I would say it was very annoying, but you know, that's especially if you die, you wipe. You know, it's
yeah,
it's not exactly fun for everyone else to wait for one person.
If Dean is still watching, he could probably rectify that. Like me dying on Bahamut was quite frustrating for everyone.
Yeah. So, and it's because of stuff like that. It's just a bit, you know, it's because you're basically waiting for somebody who has like 3 times the responsibility and difficulty of everyone else to get it correct, and that so that they can start playing. That's not very fun, you know. That's why I think it was a bit too much in the jank section. It might be fun for you, but you got to remember it's an 8-person.
Yeah, I guess that's an argument. Yeah, it's like it was fun for me, but for everyone else, it's probably not. Like if I could do that solo, like something that as challenging solo, that would have been so good, so much better, without having to drag people with me.
But it's just, yeah, like I said, I think now it's a lot better. If you can do it on DPS, it's fantastic. It's really, really good fun. Really, really good fun.
Yeah, like I played on DPS at 70, and it's like easily the hardest DPS to master.
That said, some of the jank also carry forwards to some mechanics as well, become very janky.
Which Forsaken 2, I guess that one is super bad.
Forsaken 2 and Gavel are 2 which are particularly bad for it.
Gavel because of the aggro, yes.
Yes, Gavel because of the auto attacks as well. Just sometimes he doesn't auto as many times.
Yeah.
Sometimes he straight up just
outside of those 2, there wasn't that much junk, I think. Like there were like reasonable ways to solve things.
There were, yeah. Reasonable-ish. The difficulty was very high, I would say. It's honestly ultimate tier difficulty. Especially for final fights, like 012.
I would say be below that.
Very hard.
I mean, you don't kill the ultimate fights within like few raid nights.
You don't, but you don't do all the blue mage content in a couple of raid nights either. You know, it took us a while. We were there. We were there for almost as long as an ultimate.
Well, if you mean everything combined, I would probably say it's like as difficult as Overwest right now.
Yeah,
around the same level. So yeah, that would be a good comparison, sure.
I'm looking forward to see what it's like next expansion.
Yes, same, because the current Savage tier is Like off top of my head, I don't know how to do many things. I know I have an idea how to do Titan in the Eden 12 gate boss.
Oh, one thing that is very noticeable though is a lot of the easier mechanics that usually take for granted in fights suddenly become the hardest mechanics. So patch, for instance, on O12 P2, it goes from being just, you know, basically just let the healer do it, right? If you're DPS, you just let the healer do it, and you just DPS.
That's how I did it back then.
It turns from that into literally everybody needs to pay attention to everyone else's tether. And very quickly adjust.
I mean, you only have 3 people that are like really responsible, and like the third person need to adjust to tanks and then just calls out if they have the tether. And then the last 2 tethers have plenty of time to decide between themselves. The way we did it's like pretty good, I think. I was like surprised it actually worked that way.
As well, like
Hello Vault is so good. I loved coming up with the animations that they've done.
You also need to what's it called? Basically, you have the hardest mechanics in each fight, and then you make them even harder because now they're random.
The only thing I didn't like about Hello Vault is how hard it is for the rod to make it back.
Yes,
that's the only thing that was like.
Hello Vault 2 was very, very difficult, and you got to remember as well when we did it. Lover, we were basically playing with almost everybody who'd already done, like we'd already done O12 when it was current and farmed it. So going from people who've literally done it and then they have to do it again, and it's just now way harder, and that's why it's taking us a long time to park. If you went in with a group of people who've never seen Hello World before, oh my god, it would be so difficult.
And like we also had a pretty good group, I would say. I like the menacing silence from this.
Sorry, I had to mute my mic. Sorry, what did you say?
That we had a pretty decent group, like the players that we had.
Yeah, it was a good group. Yeah, very good group. I imagine like if you had a more fresh group, it would be kind of frustrating, especially if nobody had done a particular fight before. Especially something like O12, it'd be very hard.
Yeah,
very, very hard. Like imagine blind progging Hello World that happened to do it, like, you know, and be random. You know, it'd basically be impossible. But yeah, I think it was fantastic content. Really do.
I'm really glad that I managed to find the group and get the title.
Yeah. I'm a bit concerned about the DPS checks. Because the most annoying part of it, I would say O12 was pretty hard, the DPS check. It was kind of annoying.
We had a bunch of deaths on our pool, or on our kill.
Not, but we had like 2 deaths, right? But I remember people like before they. Okay, they suddenly buffed Blue Mage. I'm not sure if you're aware.
Between 60 and 70, or like within like.
As in before, when people started doing O12 and when we did O12. That Blue Mage actually got buffed.
I've heard that it was like super hard, and I like when we did it, it wasn't noticeable. And like
it was okay. Basically, we had 10% echo because there was a maim or mend trait, right? You know, 10% more DPS, 10% more healing that they added because it was tight, right? So we basically had an extra 10% DPS compared to people who first did it.
Well, so I didn't feel like we were pushed to the limit. Like we never used the how's it called? The one that puts random debuff between 3 Libra. Then we didn't align our like trick attacks properly, and like people weren't DPSing properly.
Yes, but I'm glad about that because if you had to have everybody do that perfectly, like the entire fight, it would have made it absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, like 8 of me would enjoy like being pushed to the limit, like optimizing the rotation and whatnot. But yeah, most of the people don't like that and like don't like investing that much time. And to be honest, I'm glad it didn't take as long as it could have.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to spend another 3 months on it.
Yeah,
trying to beat the DPS check. So, yeah.
Okay. Which one do you want to do next? I'll let you pick.
Well, let's start with T since it's the most recent expansion. I'm going to put it straight into S tier.
I don't think there is any argument to put it below. It's very good. It's probably best content this expansion.
Probably the best content I think ever.
Yeah,
I want to say ever.
I haven't done all of the content at the release day, and also I haven't done all of the Alexander and Turn synced, but I've done like almost everything in this game. It's good. I felt like it could have been just a tiny bit harder, though.
I don't. I think the difficulty was perfect. I think the DPS checks were perfect. If there were any, like... Okay, so when I cleared it, it was on week 5.
We killed week 7, I think.
We blind progged most of it.
We did first 1.5 phases blind.
And there's a difference between doing it now and doing it when it was new. Because when it was new, it wasn't nearly as refined as it is now. And you didn't have the class changes, you didn't have the better food, the better gear, better pots. So I'd say the DPS now is about 5% higher than it used to be, and it makes it significantly easier, especially on Perfect. Alex, that DPS check was exceedingly tight when it first came out.
We got our kill with a death on a summoner of all players, and he was like parsing orange. So like we had our best player die, and we managed to clear. It was tight. It was really tight. We sat for a long time and figured out how to like line up our cooldowns for that phase.
When was this though? Was it like was it during what was 5.2 out? 5.2 is when it was the biggest.
Like we killed,
becoming easier sort of thing happened.
We killed at the patch it came out basically.
5.1. Okay. See, I surprised because I would like for us, like if anybody died on Perfect, it was basically a wipe. We had a death on Alexander, but you basically have a full reset before Perfect. So that was never an issue. And yeah, like all the players in my first static that I ran with were exceedingly good on their DPS. You know, they were like 99s, 100s, sort of.
We had good players. Not like all of them were pink. Like I'm not pink, but we were pretty good, I would say. And we did a really good job of optimizing the cooldowns for the last phase. Like I did some real weird shit where I would do my burst outside of the trick, because I would delay the trick for the group, so it would like line up better for them. But if I would delay my own cooldowns, I would like miss an extra use, which is a lot, because I was taking the second last prison because I would get an extra burst right at the end, and like ninja burst is huge.
Yeah, I think the DPS check was perfect though, because
it was good.
Comp mattered a lot.
In all of the phases,
mattered a lot. Yeah, comp mattered a lot, but none of the DPS checks were so tight that if you didn't have the right comp, you couldn't do it. The only exception is you needed a summoner, because summoner was so busted at that time, and it still is. Summoner's a bit too good for the fight, but that's just kind of more of a game balance issue.
TPS. Did TPS have summoner and black mage? Like, what was the comp?
Yeah, they had summoner black mage, I believe.
No, okay. We had double melee.
Double melee was. You couldn't run double ranged really if you wanted to be perfect when it was new. It was a bit too low on the DPS then, but you probably could, but it would just make it tighter than it needed to be.
Yeah,
type deal. But yeah, I think T is probably. I hope they release more ultimates like T. T was the best ultimate they've done.
Yeah.
Not really got anything bad to say about it.
I feel like it misses the magnets from Living Liquid. It's like the iconic mechanic of Living Liquid.
I'm glad it didn't have it, because they were kind of. I'm not sure if you ever did Living Liquid, but they're kind of jank.
They are kind of jank, and like being frozen, like kind of sucks, like for the duration of the knockback.
And yeah, it stuns you and all of that, and sometimes you just get knocked back in a weird spot. Sometimes it stuns you when you're halfway through running. It'd be hard to implement it well in the ultimate mechanic. The best implementation of magnets, I thought, was in 011. That was the best best magnets have been.
The one with the towers, right, on the transition.
Yeah.
That transition, O11, I like O11. I think everyone loves O11, and the transition is good except for the fucking line that between the two Virtus players are just fucking janky mess.
I thought it was fine, but like I said, I'm glad that mechanic's not in T. They actually did Nisi correctly. If they did Nisi how it was, it would have been awful, absolutely awful. Because I'm not sure if anyone did A4 when or sort of knew what it was like when it was new. But if it was like that Nisi, okay, I'm just gonna say now, the Nisi tick of damage in T is the same amount of damage it used to do in Heavensward.
Yeah,
the difference is in Heavensward you had 10,000 health, and now you have like 150,000 health.
Yeah, well, 100 when T was relevant.
Yeah, or 100, or 100. Well, I mean, no. I mean, DPS had like 120,000 or like 100,000, something like that. You have like so much more health, like in comparison to back then.
Yeah, like if Nisi would
deal
real damage, it would have been so much harder, and like
it would have been silly.
Too hard, I think. It's just not fun, to be honest.
Yeah, not fun hard, especially when it's not. For most people, they won't care. It'd literally just be waiting for the healers to learn, and that's the healers just find it annoying because it's way too hard.
Yeah,
in comparison to what
it's already very hard on healers.
Yeah, the healers already got the hardest in that fight, so yeah. Very glad it wasn't like that, and also it was invisible. You couldn't actually see who had the debuff in back then. You had to check your party list. Now you have a big mark above your head to say that this person has this colored Nisi, which I thought was a really good way of doing it.
Yeah. But in general, I was avoiding running into anyone, and I would rely on party list a lot to find my partner for the last swap before Gable.
Yeah. Yeah, being able to see visually when people have Nisi was a very, very, very good change. Very, very good change.
I'm trying to think if there is anything I really don't like, something I can complain about here. The Beyblades at the start of Brew Chaser is kind of meh. Sometimes they just clip you. But that's like so fucking minor. You maybe like die.
That's so minor because usually people could just, if you account for it, like they can go wide, right?
Yeah.
They can go wide, and so you should just treat them as going wide, and then you'll never get hit if you do that type thing. So that's just one of those that you just have to learn to not try and be close to it.
Yeah, like you just
don't tempt them because they will.
Yeah, just respect and then just.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay, right. Now, the next two ultimates are a bit weird. Do we consider them as they were new? Do we consider them as they are now?
I think we consider them as they are now, mostly for the reason that I haven't done them on release. Like, for some things, I can imagine how they were, plus like what you've told me about them, but I don't think I have like a ground to make a...
UCOB now is an A. It's an A. It's very good.
For me, it's a B. It's good, but it's also not good.
It's the jankiest of all the ultimates.
It's
by far
very janky, and it's also too easy for too long.
This is my issues with UCOB. Twintania is boring.
Twintania is extremely boring. Yes.
Yeah. The tank tethers are inconsistent. Grabbing them is inconsistent. Just grab it. No, in every mechanic. Like whenever you have to grab a green tether, it's inconsistent.
I mean, you can say that in general about Final, but yes, that's true about this fight as well.
The hatches in 10 Strike also inconsistent. They can just sometimes just wipe you.
Sometimes they just fly through you.
Yeah, sometimes they just fly through you. Sometimes they curve around the neural link. Just janky in general because of that. What else? The fire puddle as well. The person who's baiting the fire, sometimes they can just kill the person because the tick immediate. Yeah. Oh, same with hypernovas. The same thing can happen with the hypernova dot. It can just, how it has an activation. Sometimes it doesn't have that.
Yeah.
It just immediately ticks and kills you.
Hypernovas in general, I don't like them. Yes.
Also, it's rare, but it can happen, right? And because it can happen. Murphy's Law, it will happen to someone.
We definitely vibes to that, sure, yeah. I also think a lot of trios are very easy now, which makes it like the fight is very, very long. It's the longest fight in the game, right?
It's the longest fight. It's 20 minutes. It's the longest fight in the game, yeah.
Yeah, and like if you're falling asleep until like 10th strike, it's not very fun to do, because I found most of the trees pretty easy, including Heaven's Fall. But I was playing a healer. I don't know if it should make it easier or harder, because like I would also.
I like the trios. I think the trios are good.
They're cool to learn, but at some point they become just like monotonous to do.
There's too many of them. There's like one. There's I think two too many. Like there's 6 of them.
Two too many. Two too many. Yes, like just some of them.
Should have been 4.
The first 3 are like Quick March, Blackfire, Felron. Like those 3
I think
can go 1 or 2.
I think get rid of Blackfire and
Blackfire is the most annoying. For us it was the most annoying one to heal, because we didn't want to rely on Swiftcast and save
Blackfire and Fel Ruin. They can go. Right,
Fel Ruin is just too easy. Yeah, it's like not a mechanic.
I mean, it's not okay. The reason it's easy is because you don't have to read the quote anymore.
Yeah.
If you have to do the quotes properly, it's very difficult. But everybody uses ACT for it. And
and you need only one person to call it out correctly. Yeah. And it's binary choice.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And for that person, it's ridiculously difficult. And for everyone else, it's ridiculously easy. And the quotes just weren't a good mechanic to begin with. Like, I'm glad they're never going to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything does snapshot early as well in UCOB. It's the out as well. Very, very weird snapshots on the nail out.
I felt
the jankiness. The jankiness is a problem, and it does detract from it quite heavily. But the fight in general, I think, is fantastic. I think it still captures that ultimate feel, like T does, even in an expansion later. The DPS checks when it was new were never an issue, so them becoming easier doesn't change anything. Because you can't skip any of the trios because by DPSing too much, it's you don't have any weirdness there. You have to do all the trios no matter what. I think it's very good. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's a really good fight. It's not on the same tier as T, and I don't think it ever was because of the jank.
For me, it's like
just too janky.
For me, jank brings it too much down, and like coupled with the fact that it's long and I find it easy, like just monotonous to wait for other people to learn how to do Heaven's Fall or like how to do 10th Strike. I really like duo part of the fight. It's like I don't think anyone can like everyone agrees on that duo is like the best part of the fight because it's like so much.
Ad phase, yeah, ad phase is pretty fun.
Yeah,
I think Nail was fun. I like Nail too long.
Nail was fun to prog, but like later into pulse it's easy. Dive bombs are cool, but people were still struggling with them like when we killed it. Because they relied on callouts and like I was doing callouts every time, so like I learned it quickly because I had to and others just didn't. So sometimes people die. Baja, I don't know. Not a fan.
I mean, final Golden's fine.
Golden is fine. Like I mean, sure, it's easy, but thematically it's appropriate, and you still need to like do the mitigation properly. And like healing, doing mechanics, and calling the mitigation at the same time is actually challenging. As a DPS, you just press buttons, sure.
Well, more specifically as a melee DPS, yes. Which is why I'm on them. But like the other DPS still need to know when they're mitigating and all that sort of stuff. So okay, Uru. I'm gonna put it. Okay, Uru's the biggest divisive one because it used to be an S tier. I thought it was better than it used to be better than UCOB because it was like UCOB without the jank and the difficulty came from the very, very tight DPS checks and the very tight mitigation checks. Those just don't exist anymore because of the changes that have happened in Shadowbringers. The DPS checks are now a joke. It wasn't a problem for UCOB because they were always a joke. In Uru, it matters a lot more. So you're kind of skipping a lot of parts of the fight, and it still has the same issue as it used to have, which was basically Titan jails are way too fucking hard. Honestly, it's a ridiculously hard mechanic, and because of it, people are relying on programs to do it a lot of the time.
For jails, I think they just need more time, like half a second to a second, like more time to think about which spot you're taking, and like maybe half a second
Either
more
that
to position
or
yourself.
It needs to put a debuff on your debuff bar.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's hard
The
to read
mechanic
people's
itself is fine.
It's hard to read. Yeah, I like the idea. It's hard to read people's names. Like, I see like 7 people names on my screen, and I need to distinguish who has it. And like, you're all fucking stacks running in the same direction.
Yeah, you're all stacked together, and you have to see which 3 people have the circles underneath them. The visual clarity for it is just too much in the you can't fucking see anything category. It just needed better visual clarity so you can see what to do.
Yeah, but
that's all it needed, and because of that, people are using programs to do the mechanic for them.
I did it myself, and I did fine, I think.
I that bit I didn't like. Now the DPS checks and the mitigation checks are just gone. You basically are just progging Ultima and Titan jails because Ifrit is now a joke. Grid is now a joke.
We were skipping dashes without potions on a good run.
Yeah, like before, the DPS check to kill the feathers was real. To kill the nails was real. You know, to actually kill Ifrit was a very tight DPS check in comparison to the other 2 primals. But nowadays, Ifrit just feels like a chore because that DPS check element has been lost.
It is. Despite that,
you literally do about 25% more DPS now than you used to on Ubu. It feels like that much. So, especially if you have a Gunbreaker, because Gunbreaker just does ridiculous damage in comparison to the tanks of 70. So, yeah, I think now I'm going to put it in B tier, maybe even C tier. I like doing Ultimate. I think Ultimate phase is awesome. It's so fun. But the rest of the fight just kind of poo-poo now. So.
I put it in A because, like, overall I enjoyed it way more than UCOB. Partially because my UCOB group, like, I didn't enjoy playing with them, and UVO group I enjoyed playing with more. But I'm trying to not take that into account. It's definitely easier. It's like much easier. There is nothing I really disliked about the fight. Like, Gale's visual clarity, sure, but it's like not a deal breaker. The mechanics are still cool. Like, sure, you don't worry about mitigation as much, but it's interesting to do them. Like, it's interesting to position Garuda between the sisters, to like sprint back, pop your cooldowns, whatever. On Ifrit, it's cool, like, if on the rare occasion that we get dashes, it's like cool to figure out if you like rotating 1 or 2 pizza slices.
Oh, by the way, we got dashes every time. It depends.
It's not. I mean, it's not a hard it's not a hard mechanic anyway. Like the dashes itself actually didn't change at all since then.
Yeah.
What else? Titan is fine. I get that it used to be much harder to mitigate. I assume even now it deals like quite a lot of damage.
Yeah.
On both Busters and Tumults. I don't like the part where it's like Bury in the middle with the landslide, but there is a better way to do it. It's just that people don't do it. Well, not better, easier.
Yeah.
With how you used to do it, yeah. Ultima, I don't like Tradition. It's like very fucking long. It's like way too fucking long.
I think the transition is fine. I don't mind the transitions in Ultimate, mostly because it sort of gives you a breather. But the problem is nowadays you don't need a breather because the previous 3, like Titan, Ifrit, and Garuda are so easy now that you don't need a breather. You used to need a breather before because
in tier
you had to hyper focus your DPS rotation. You hyper focus because you had to do it to beat the DPS check on that phase. And you don't need to do that anymore.
In tier, you definitely need it, and like in UCOB, it's still fine because it's like 16 minutes into the fight, and like after the adds you need to like calm down and like focus up for the last push, right? In Uwu, you just like smash 3 dungeon bosses and then you get like 2 minutes long transition. It kind of sucks. Like if it would have been later into the fight, like before suppression, let's say, or like after annihilation, I would mind it less. And even like when you kill, the transition itself, the mechanically is like really fucking easy, right? And mechanics are like 40 seconds, and then Ultima does your stupid shit for another minute. Like that part could be much easier. Like the limit break itself give you enough time to calm down and think, I think. Ultima itself is really cool. I enjoyed the mechanics. All of the like trios or whatever are not very hard, at least now, but they're pretty nice to them. I like that on Predation you need to think where to go, and Annihilation is kinda meh because it's too easy, and Suppression. I mean, as a tank I don't really need to do anything. And what else? Primal Roulette.
Yeah,
Primal
Roulette.
Kinda, I mean, it's really easy, but back then you probably didn't want anything harder past the point.
No, the DPS check because basically, you know how the ultimate DPS check was.
Yeah.
He would gain gauge for every death you had, but it sort of reset after you pushed for suppression. So once you push him below 50%, it begins the final phase, and everything after that, it's not too bad. It's kind of easy, but it's just it used to be super, super tight. So you didn't want anything that difficult because everyone had to super hyper focus on their DPS.
Yeah.
And mitigation. And that's basically the same thing with Bahamut, you know. It's not like Primal Roulette is the same as Golden, honestly. It's not meant to be hard. It's just meant to be very tight on the DPS and mitigation check.
The one thing I forgot to mention about Yukop and like Golden Bach in particular is it's hard to see the exoflares because he's like so fucking big and there is like orange everywhere and the markers are like reddish as well, and the exoflares themselves are orange when they explode. Like sometimes you can just miss it. Like the clarity visual could be better, but it's like
it's yellow minor. AoE on a yellow background.
Yeah, so. it's minor.
And in ads phase as well, the Bahamut has got this big twinkle.
The tethers, yeah.
Like seeing a twister on the ground is very difficult because of how much.
Yeah, and like in the Neuralink, you can't fucking see them at all. I wiped a pool to that once. Like the DPS dropped twister in the Neuralink and I ran through it. I was like dead sure there is nothing there left because I just couldn't see it in the Neuralink.
But yeah, for Uru, I think Uru now is kind of muted. It's nothing like how it used to be, and it's kind of disappointing for that reason. It's still the first ultimate I would recommend to people because it's easier now. Yeah. It doesn't feel like an ultimate anymore. It's like it's been taken out back and shot. That's basically what's happened.
It's above Savage still, I think.
It's still harder than Savage. It's about the same as Blue Mage, I would say.
Yeah. I mean that's what we've said earlier. Yes.
So yeah, not too difficult. DR Savage.
What exactly are we rating? Like
for
what
DR Savage?
Like the whole thing together. Like, but do they count the grind and unlocking Boże and grinding levels and
no. You don't. You just count.
Because if we count that, it's gonna be way fucking lower for me. It's a cool idea. It just takes too fucking long.
You gotta remember, most people who did it already grinded that shit because it's just part of the relic, you know.
Yeah, but like I skipped it on the start because I didn't want to come back to the game at the time. Like it was the content rot after the second tier, right?
Yeah, you can't put that against it.
Okay, as the fight themselves, at least on release, not now when you can just.
Okay, so I have multiple experience doing this, right? So I led an entire group, hardcore group through it, and in week 1, right? So we started in week 1. And then we did hardcore hours, pretty much like as hardcore as you get for 48 man. Like we went tried to go every day sort of thing, and we cleared pretty quickly, and it was good fun. Now, the content itself, I think has some issues. Alright, first issue I have was Slimes. Slimes was just far too tight and annoying to do, honestly. Consistently. I know they designed it differently. They wanted you to DPS the big slimes down. But nobody did that. Nobody bothered doing that. Everyone just
I did the slimes.
Rage and ran away.
I did the slimes and I have no idea how it fucking works.
Yeah, you basically after they finish the enrage, the slime dies, right? And so you want the way PF, like the way people do it now is you let them all enrage and then you run away because you have to actually outrange the enrage.
Yeah.
That's not intended. The intended was you're supposed to DPS them down. But the DPS check is kind of tight and annoying because you would have to push them when their red slime is dead, like it's only just died, so that people can immediately swap onto the big slime. And timing that between 4 different groups is annoying, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
So that level of coordination just ends up being kind of tedious. I think some of the actions as well were too tedious to manage. Like as somebody who leaded a group, managing all the groups to everybody have Dervish, everybody have the Ren Star, the Lost Flare Star, to have all of these things that everyone needed, the bravery, the cure for. It was a pain in the ass to manage. Overall design, I'm rating him in terms of. So the fights themselves were good. Like I really liked the first boss.
It was meh for me, not good, not bad.
When you went in early, the DPS check was very, very tight. And I thought that was it was about where it needed to be, and it got easier as you kept doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The second fight I thought was a bit too easy, like Dahu.
I mean, it's like the mini boss, right?
Yeah, the mini boss. It was a bit easy, but it was like whatever. Like I don't care if something's easy, provided you can just.
By the way, do you have any slightest idea how was it Umbra or Uriel who would get East Flare every single fucking? Oh, you weren't there, but like when you came to us later, but like when we were progging, the same person would get East Flare like literally every single fucking time, like 5-6 rounds in a row.
We didn't have that. It was like completely random for us.
Like it's supposed to be random, and the odds of someone getting 1 of 2 out of 48 people is.
Well, it only ever went on tanks, so you can narrow it down already.
Okay, sure, but I mean, still, the odds are really fucking low.
Yeah, I don't know what about that, but it didn't really affect.
It's
not very common bug, basically. I think it's like some weird thing that happens, but I don't think it was super common.
I'm pretty sure the game has like some kind of instant seeding, because when we did Blue Mages and like we did Alexander 8, and like the Gavel mechanics would commonly go on the same people more often than not, like more often than it's supposed to be, or at least it feels that way. It might be like a confirmation bias, but
it might be confirmation bias. That's why I can't really comment on it, and it wasn't really that janky, so it didn't really matter. It was just something funny to notice. So.
Yeah. Who was this?
Okay, what else? It was the robots. The robots were good. I thought the robots were a really good boss.
Yeah, it's actually a good boss. I like it. I like that you have to like multi-dot, how like you have to coordinate your raid spells.
I didn't like doing that. That was the bit I didn't like.
Really?
Yeah, okay, mass coordination is... You think it's nice until you have to be the one to do it, and it becomes a bit of a pain in the ass.
I guess.
Because you basically have to check up on people and ask people in individual groups and say, do you have the right actions,
Like
this is when you need to use this and all that.
Haven't said much about it yet, but what brings down DRS for me is like, it's a cool experiment, but it feels like a WoW raid. It's pretty much a WoW raid. You have like a fuck ton of people, you have bosses back to back within one instance, right?
Yeah.
And you have to coordinate a lot outside of the thing, and it's like, it doesn't work that well in this game. partially because people are used to different things, and like partially because
I think it's great. I think it's good
hard
content.
it's hard to organize that, like many people, and like the more people you have, the less precise things have to be, because like you have more opportunities to fuck up, right?
Yeah, I love the mass content idea. I doing it with 48 people is so fun. It's just, I think the logos actions and all of them are also super fun. So you kind of have to coordinate them, but it's just like, I think I think putting buffs up for it was a mistake. Like having this many buffs, it's just a bit too much to manage, because it's strong. If you let people take DPS actions, like their own DPS actions, it would be more fun. I think for them, and it would be less micromanaging bullshit for me to do. I think that like the dispels and all that, I think that's fine. It's just like the constant raid buffs type thing. It's a bit of a pain.
Probably enjoy managing it if it would be like a puzzle that you have to do without like taking in account people's not grinding for things, or like people not listening and forgetting things and like that stuff. It's cool to do outside of realities of like, you know,
yeah, the scarcity of certain actions is also a pain. Like if you could just switch between your actions, you didn't have to farm them outside.
That's what put me off from Boja the most. Like I initially didn't join the DRS, and like only after I got convinced to join. And I'm also glad I skipped the first like 3 nights and I didn't have to deal with slime bullshit.
What else? Yeah, slimes were bullshit, I think. But what else? What other issues did I really have with it? I guess really the only other major issue I had was the 1v1 hidden mechanic type deal, where there's a hidden 1v1. That I didn't like, because if they failed, you had to wipe. Like you couldn't progress. Yeah. And that's not very fun.
I'm glad
that's not very fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we had Cindy, who's like really fucking good at the game, doing that.
Yeah, we also had a good like, because you wanted it to be a black mage, right? Because of
Flare Star.
But because of Flare Star, it's hard to get a black mage that group. I'm lucky that in our first group we had, and Cindy as well was also very good. But I know a lot of other groups they did struggle a little bit to get somebody who could do the 1v1 consistently, because it's, you know, if you just hear, oh sorry guys, I died on the 1v1, you're like, well, that's it. That's it. We have to go out. We have to lose all the stuff we farmed. We have to go back in, and it's annoying.
A few times, but like he learned it very quickly. Like before we got to the third boss, he was doing it consistently. Third boss is like my favorite boss in DRS. I like it more than Queen. It has like really cool mechanics, I think.
The only issue I have with it is the DPS check. The DPS check on the third boss is too tight.
Yeah, it took us longer than to proc the Queen.
Yeah. I don't like there being that tight DPS checks in 48-man content.
Especially in 48, yeah.
It's a bit too much to...
The mechanic...
What you do, really.
Yeah, the mechanic with swords and the clones, that one is actually really fucking hard. Like, by the end, I was still struggling to find the proper safe spot myself.
I think for our group, most people struggled with the ladder game.
I never struggled with that one.
Second ladder game.
It was, like, to me, I never struggled. I died to it a bunch of times. Okay, not bunch, a few times, but it was just stupidity. Well, I guess if you have a lot of people dying to stupid things, it makes it hard, but still.
Yeah.
It never bothered me. Cleaves were harder for me. But for cleaves, you need only one... For cleaves, you need only one person to call it out correctly, and ladder is individual responsibility.
It's a case of, like, for instance, I never really struggled with them, but it's just something I noticed with people dying, right? Because people would die a bunch to that mechanic, and I was kind of like, you know, it was a bit frustrating, but it's like, it wouldn't be so bad if the DPS check wasn't as tight as it was.
Yeah.
Type thing.
It gotten better over time, obviously, like the more times we did it, but yeah.
Yeah, as well as later patches when you got better actions and stuff, and the DPS check now is apparently a joke, which is good. I would say before it wasn't puggable, but now it is puggable, and I like that design. I like that design. It's just I don't like all the managing. I don't like the 1v1, and I don't like the slimes either.
I really don't like the grind outside. Like, this is what really puts me off. I was blessed that I was healing and I only had to bring protect and a banner. Like I barely had to grind for anything.
Yeah, the farming things is a bit annoying. I think unlocking it is fine. I just wish that the whole system of having these, actions, if they were earnable, that would be better. Then, maybe you get some as a quest reward, and you need to activate them whenever you want. Maybe not inside the instance. You could put them in your holster, but it's not it's like a renewable. It's like an unlimited resource type thing. I think that would have been better.
That would have been much better, yes, because you could actually think more about it and optimize the DPS cooldowns and who brings what.
Yeah, especially if you could unlock some of them from DRS.
Yeah,
that would be cool as well. Saying if you beat the third boss, you unlock this really OP skill. That as you progress through DRS, your rotation could change with these new skills added, and that could make it really interesting to do.
Yeah. Because having inventory limit on top of having to grind things is way too restrictive.
Yeah. The whole death restriction I think is good. I don't have a problem with that. It's just expensive for healers and tanks. At least back then.
Me neither. I actually don't mind it. Yes. The last boss queen, she's fine. I have mixed feelings about super chests though. I think the mechanic itself is good. It's fine. It's just really fucking hard to see where the dolls are. The arena is just way too big and they're dark, and on the dark background it's hard to see. I think
super chess is a bit. I think it's a bit controversial because it's too much responsibility on 2-3 people. Somebody just needs to. You either have 1 or 2 people in your group who can just do it, and then everyone else just follows what they say. That makes it a bit. It's a bit too much pressure on those 2 people.
Yeah,
and I think it can be bad for potentially it could lead to a potentially toxic environment.
Yeah, the normal chests though, I really like all of the normal chests in Queen. Those are really good.
Yeah.
I don't know where I want to put it. There is some things
I think it's awesome. I think it's really good. The actual content itself is awesome, but it just has some issues, which I think it's better than. Okay, it's better and worse than BA. It did some things better, some things worse.
I did in the BA, that's the only thing I never touched.
It's much harder than BA, for sure.
I wanted to BA for the mount, I really wanted the mount.
BA is much easier than
I want to put it in A. There is some things that I think are S about this, but there is a lot of just awkward, weird, unusual things surrounding. So it's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. So it's either A or B for me. I don't really know where to put it.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with A tier. I think I'm pretty happy with A tier. I think it's very fun content to actually just do. It's nice to have such a huge group of people as well.
It's nice to
very rewarding.
It's
very
nice, to have all the friends around to talk to them and whatnot and crack up between the pulls. Yeah, I guess I'll put it in A. Yeah, I guess it's around the same enjoyment as I had from Uvu, Cloud, Titan, and what's that? Oh, it's Warrior of Light. Okay, Warrior of Light I really fucking hate it, but it's not related to the fight itself. I should not bring the fight down because of that.
Yeah, also, I'm pretty happy with my list. All these D tier ones can go fuck off, and then you have cinematic tier.
We didn't disagree that much, I think. Only a few things.
The biggest ones was Fatebreaker.
Fatebreaker, Ramu.
Yeah, Ramu. I don't know why you hate Ramu so much. I think Ramu's really good.
And Innocence.
Yeah, I think Innocence is actually a really good fight. I think it's
boring.
It's nice to do in PF.
Boring and dog shit. But yeah, other than that, it's one tier between each other because I don't know, we had a bit different experiences. You did it in PF, I did it in a group.
Hey, can you make a poll and ask chat whose list is better?
That's a good idea. What? If I vote for myself, it doesn't count? Anyway.
Alright, but I'm voting for myself.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think my list is better. Duh. Wait, your list isn't working.
Wait, what? Yeah, it's like not showing results for me.
I know you can do it actually on thingy itself.
Yeah, or just fucking do. I don't know, it just doesn't work for some reason.
Oh well.
Yeah, I guess we bored people. Yeah.
Because tier. Is there like another different straw poll type website?
Straw poll. I can post it on Discord by the way later in like a or like a combined poll site.
Anyway, I personally for this expansion though, I do hope that they do better next expansion. That's my overall feeling on it. Because to me, that's way too many fights in C and D tier. For me personally, I think Stormblood did better overall. Like in Stormblood, the ones which were bad were noticeable, and now it's kind of like half the tier ends up kind of being a bit mediocre to bad. So yeah. That's just kind of how I feel about it now. Especially Eden's verse. Eden's verse was so bad.
It was. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay. Maybe this works.
Yeah, that one works.
Okay, cool. Overall, I mean, that's the first expansion I played fully. It was alright. Like, I played like 3,500 hours this expansion, I think. And like, for the most part, I enjoyed it, except for the second tier. The best part about second tier was not playing the game for a year after it.
Yeah, pretty much. I enjoyed taking a break during the second tier because it was such a
the previous year I played so many other games and I just enjoyed myself, and like I'm looking forward to do it in the break. Until then, Volker now.
The only issue I have is I get the feeling for a lot of people next tier is going to feel very disappointing just because of the difficulty. The difficulty should not be hard next tier. But so many people now have jumped into Ultimate that their skill has gone up so much that I think no matter what for them, it's going to feel a bit easy.
But at the
unless
same
they're
time,
doing it in the first couple.
At the same time, there is a lot of newcomers, right? And like WoW refugees. So there is like, I feel, a huge separation between... Not separation, that's not the right word. There is like a huge range of various skill levels. And there is like a lot of players on the high level now who like done all ultimates, and there is a lot of newcomers. And for the newcomers, the easier tier will be very nice to do, I assume.
Yeah. I think the newcomers are going to enjoy a lot. I just think for a lot of people who we know now done basically all three ultimates, it's going to feel like a step down in difficulty, even if it is actually just as hard as last expansion, if not maybe even harder.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna try to do it like first week / World Pro if I will find someone who will be willing to take me in.
That's also why I'm choosing to do Hardcore Pro, because I think that's going to be what's best for my static now.
Well, I just want to see the other perspective and try to push myself to be like even better at the game. Plus, I don't want to like to prog for like 3 months. Like, it just takes too much of my time. I probably should have put an option for like neither or like both. Actually, I should probably remake it. Fuck. I'm gonna remake it, sorry. Fall maker. And I'll just post it on Discord. Whose list is better? Me. Well, that was fun. Maybe we should do jobs at some point, although we will just end up fucking arguing about like tank mitigation again.
No. We'll argue about how, ninjas care way too much about uptime.
I don't think ninja the best.
Even though they're half range.
I think
samurai
is the best one, yes. Samurai. Ninja is good, ninja is really fucking good, and it's like the best ninja we had, but samurai is just better.
Samurai, I think, is the most complete melee and also the strongest in the meta. So
ninja is pretty strong, I would say, but yeah, the way just the samurai job works is like so complex and flows well, and there is like so much to master. And ninja is like kind of straightforward, to be honest.
Yeah, I like Sam a lot.
Yeah, like Black Mage is the best job in the game, but I think we also both agree on that.
Yeah, I think Black Mage is also well. I also like the tanks, obviously. I think. Dark Knight, Gunbreaker.
No, only Gunbreaker is good, rest is trash.
Actually, I don't like Gunbreaker for prog, so I probably wouldn't put it at the top. I'd probably put Dark Knight at the top. I'd probably put Paladin and Gunbreaker in A tier. Paladin's super fun to prog on, but it's super crap to
Paladin is cool to optimize.
Farm on. Paladin's nice to prog on because you have so many tools. You have such a huge toolkit to save runs and stuff. And
that's super good, super useful.
Gunbreaker, you just feel like a liability during prog.
I like how Umbra goes. The tanks are perfect this tier, honestly. Yes, all 3 tanks are perfect. Yep.
Yeah,
Warrior is good for
tank
ultimates. Warrior is good for ultimates, for like Yuko Bunduvo.
I mean, but it's not as good as Gunbreaker or Paladin, so it's not good.
I mean, I don't know. The self-healing is like really fucking good.
You don't get self-healing in level 70 content.
What? You have both Thrill and Equilibrium.
Huh? You have what?
Thrill and Equilibrium.
Thrill doesn't heal at level 70.
Wait,
it just
really?
increases your... Yeah, that's actually a trait.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well.
Alright, and also Equilibrium, like, that's whatever. Like, yeah, it's still like strictly just worse than a single TVN, and it's a 1 minute cooldown. It's just not that amazing. Like, Gunbreaker's just straight up better. Yeah, Equilibrium's better than Aurora, but they're basically the same skill. It's not like it doesn't have Nascent. Nascent is why you want to play Warrior, right? It's literally the only reason. But it's just like, why play it in comparison to a Gunbreaker? Kind of just, there just isn't one at level 70. At level 80, yes, but at level 70, I think Paladin Gunbreaker is by far the best comp. I think Paladin in general for ultimates and prog is just really good.
I actually did all 3 ultimates with a Warrior, come to think of it. It was fine for all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's also, you can clear it.
Honestly, like as of now, the jumps are really, really well balanced. I think like they're all pretty close.
They are. Ultimates are where it's most notable. Like, I think Dark Knight Paladin, I think, is the best comp for T. It's just a really, really strong comp. The Paladin. If you play Paladin correctly, it's completely broken because you need to give your cooldown straight to the tank.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance, on ads, I'm able to give myself like 40% mitigation and then give the other tank.
Since you explained to me how intervene actually works, yeah, it's actually good. I thought it's like super fucking bad.
No, it's super busted. It's amazing. And then you can also clemency yourself and the other tank, and you gain the extra heal. It's so busted. It's so good. Yeah.
And like Hallowed Ground is like obviously the best, except for the cooldown, but
yeah, but in ultimates it's it's just the best for ultimates. So The only time Warrior is good in UCOB is because you get you can do an extra home gang, but it's not that big a deal because you can just do a buff intervene as well on Paladin.
Yeah.
And it's basically like giving your other tank hollow ground because Umber just takes no damage for that buster.
Yeah, and like intervene for like stack busters until like intervene is so fucking busted. Holy shit.
Yeah, on Golden it's completely busted as well.
Yeah, because
Paladin's just. I think a well-played Paladin is just the best prog tank. Same way, and at level 80, same with Dark Knight, because TBN as well is just a really busted tool at level 80. With having raid mitigation. No raid mitigation at 70 really is painful.
It kind of sucks that they don't have missionary mat yet. 70 ultimates now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the damage isn't there anymore at 70 because of the tank stance changes.
Like
they weren't balanced around it.
Starved,
Yeah. T, you are mitigation starved because it just hits really hard. But it also has a lot of raid busters, so you kind of still want Paladin because that's 2 raid mitigations, and Dark Knight is the best one for personal mitigation.
Wings are fucking broken. Just remove wings from the game. Why? That's unfair.
Yeah, it is unfair, but I mean, you could also this is why tanks are balanced, because people are like Gunbreaker's broken, it does too much DPS. Warrior's broken, it heals too much. Dark Knight's broken, it doesn't take any damage. It's like Paladin's broken because it can heal the entire fucking raid and has 2 raid mitigations, and hollow ground.
Paladin is broken, rest is somewhat balanced.
A lot of people, Paladin's the worst tank. Well, I would also say that a lot of people see Paladin's the worst of the tanks.
I don't really
They're
like.
Wrong.
I don't like its play style, but like the toolkit is amazing. Yes. Also same, No matter how good Paladin is, just Gunbreaker is so much nicer to play. At least for me, it's like Ninja.
It's alright. I mean, I like playing Paladin, so I like playing it in prog. So.
I mean,
I like Dark Knight and I like Paladin a lot. That's my favorite.
At the end of the day, as long as it's like not crucial to the comp, it's better to play what you like, because it's like you're just gonna enjoy the game more and be like more concentrated on the game, which actually matters.
It only mattered like week 1 on T, like I mean not week 1, but like the very first patch T came out. Having Dark Knight was very, very nice for the first 2 phases, because it increases your like how quickly you clear the fight, because you just have a lot less wipes.
Yeah.
Due to tank deaths because of Dark Knight, and that is a distinctive advantage. There was a reason why in the first 5 weeks, if you had a look at all the clears, there was 80% of the time there was a Dark Knight, and 75% of the time there was a Paladin. So and Dark Knight Paladin, sorry, was I think 60% of clears were Dark Knight Paladin in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, like we also progged most of the fights with Paladin Dark Knight, and it's like super fucking smooth and good.
Yeah. You should play whatever you want, but it's just for if you're trying to clear really quickly, comp does matter a little bit. It does matter a little bit, especially they usually balance the patch afterwards. So they balance the classes a lot more when they nerf Summoner and all that in the following patch. But
I can't wait for the balance to be fucking cocked at the start of the next expansion.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. I mean, it's not going to be like awful. It's never been like so bad you can't play jobs in if you want to play the job.
Start of the Shadowbringer was kind of awkward, but yeah. Past that, it was fine. Like after a month, or like after a first balance patch, it was fine. Some jobs at the start of Shadowbringers are really fucking bad though, like mechanically not enjoyable to play.
Yeah, I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. That this is for. I was more specifically talking about players who can play multiple jobs to equal, capabilities. So I can play Dark Knight, Warrior, and Paladin to equal skill. So they're all completely comfortable for me. So I'm literally just trying to pick the best one.
For me, well, yeah, fair enough. For me, I have like 1 job per role I can play comfortably. Except for ranged, I just never play ranged. They're just too simple for me. I never was interested.
Yeah, like for me, it's just like if you can play them more comfortably, like a lot of people can play. Like if you main melee, a lot of the top players can play literally all melee.
Yeah.
Like
Although
they
I don't. If you're good at any melee, I don't know how you can play Dragoon. But that's just my opinion.
yeah, but they learn it anyway because
Yeah.
it can matter for early prog, especially week 1 prog. It can matter, and it can make your prog quicker. So it usually doesn't matter too much, but when the shit is like I said on Shiva, when it's that tight where you need a certain comp to clear it,
Yeah, that sucks.
it sucks, right? But it happens. It continues to happen. So until it stops happening, that's when people will stop trying to learn every class so that they can basically perfect it. Yeah. That's just how it works. So. Yeah, the mitigation is very similar. I think it's a little bit too homogenized at the moment. I would like to see a rampart change a little bit between them.
I actually like that it's similar, because it's so hard to balance game around between like completely different toolkits.
It needs to be similar, but not as similar as it is right now. It just needs one.
I feel like
so currently every tank has 3 cooldowns which are the same, and then some tanks have 1 extra cooldown. I think it could be changed to 2 cooldowns which are the same, and then two which are different. I think that would still work perfectly fine for balance and just unhomogenize them a little bit.
Would be cool if like we have raid mitigation that's like the similar, right? Except Paladin has wings. I feel like other jobs should have something like wings, but unique in its own way. And like Heart of Stone should be buffed somehow, so it would be as good as like Intervene, OTBN, and Warriors need something changed about him with like Thrill or Equilibrium or like Rotation or Nascent.
Well, the thing is, if they do that, then you kind of need to homogenize the tanks even more, because if they buff Heart of Stone, they need to nerf Gunbreaker's damage. They need to, because it would then why wouldn't you take a Gunbreaker, because it's just straight up better than the other tanks.
Fair enough, yeah.
It just does more damage. So you every tank currently has a specialization in like one certain area, and so if you try to reduce that or buff the other thing, then it kind of creates problems. Like the specializations aren't such a big deal that it matters too much. It's just it only matters if you're like in the top, like top 1% of like trying to really early clear, and even then it doesn't even matter that much. Usually it's a 5x5 basis. Like on T, Warrior Dark Knight was actually a super good comp, and it's probably the second best comp after Dark Knight Paladin. So because of the healing that Nathan gave in P1 and P2. So.
Wanna rate all of the dungeons in this expansion?
No.
Me neither.
They all go into D tier, but dungeon tier.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of dungeons, I was like, not exactly sad, but would be cool if we would have gotten a deep dungeon this expansion.
Yeah, I missed that. It feels, I don't know, this expansion kind of lacked a little bit in content. Like the story was really good and all, but like. There were some other things where it was just missing, you know? It was just missing a little bit.
Post-leveling story was average, I guess.
I think the story overall was really good. Like, I thought the story was fantastic. It feels like
it was really good.
Maybe too much budget went into the story, but I know that's what the casual playbase loves. So.
I mean, that's what attracts the players, yeah.
It's hard to, say so. I mean, plus they obviously have specific people designing the story and certain people designing other things, so they can't transfer them, Yeah, like I know all that stuff, but it's just I think they just need to change when classes get abilities in general. Like
classes at low level are so fucking boring, and it's going to get even worse in this expansion unless they change anything.
Like before 60, it fucking sucks to play, and even at 60, a lot of jobs don't work.
Yeah. It's a really big problem. It's getting to be a really big problem, and it's going to get worse this expansion yet again unless they change it.
And yeah, like at 70, you're missing some key skills.
Yeah, I can't wait to be a level 60 job and then finally get the third part of my combo. That's all I'm going to say. Like, it's...
Wait, what? Which job?
No, I'm saying, like, at the rate it's going, by the time I get 60, that's when I finally get the third part of my combo. Because, like, it's starting to get really ridiculous in terms of...
When I was leveling Gunbreaker, it felt really off to me that you have 2-hit combo that generates cartridges, but you can't spend those cartridges on AE. Like, if the combo would generate the cartridges, it would have felt better about it.
Yeah. I have high hopes for Endwalker though. Now that they've got a lot of money, man, they can fucking pump that shit back into the game, and I really hope they do.
Yeah. The one thing I'm really looking forward to is the fucking Ascian story coming to an end, and the Zodiac, and I'm excited for the expansion after Endwalker, because like I want to see other stuff in this fold.
I really want to see what the raid tier looks like.
I hope we got more Final Fantasy X stuff, not only anime.
I think it's going to be Ascian themed though. The thing, but it's hard to say. Yeah, Pandemonium, the new raid.
It could be, yeah, it could be.
I mean, I had a picture of Lara Brea, so.
I mean, you could also like fit in scene like Ascian summoning like a biggest creature, and it has like different parts you need to break or whatever. Or it could be like or like either of those could be a 24-man. Although 24-mans are usually unrelated to the story, like completely.
Oh, that's another thing. Cruise Chaser mount can you go fuck itself? Like why?
Yes,
why isn't
please.
that? Why?
I was so fucking upset.
That is very.
Can't wait for them to start. Upsetting. Can't wait for them to start like selling Uwu as a mount or something.
I can't wait for a Golden Bahamut mount.
That's boggers.
Yeah, have our 4-person Golden Bahamut mount on the Mog Station. Let's go.
Let's go.
It was the second most major upset of this expansion. My most major upset was Eden's Verse. That was the worst part of the expansion.
I mean, probably saying like Eden's Verse was a low point of the expansion for me.
Yeah, I almost quit the entire game because of it. So
I finished the tier and I stopped playing for a year, and I had fun doing other stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I'll call it there anyway.
Yeah, I think you
said
should
about
stop.
Everything.
Yeah, you said everything you had to say and even more. No, yeah, it was fun. If you're gonna be playing Hell, I'll probably hang around with you maybe later, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I might do some chores and then head to bed soon because I'm getting kind of tired.
Fair enough. Yeah, take care, man.
Alright. Yeah, you too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
How do I leave the call? And yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I'll post the charts later with a link to the straw poll to see who's actually better, me and this. Good fucking damn it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll hang around. Bye.